This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Many, Mickey, Fishy!
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
I like him. Who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me. I like him.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
All right, then welcome once again to the Voice Wrestling Flagship Podcast. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, King of Banter, very good family man, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, we're live.
We are live.
Let's do it.
For a very tiny percentage of the people listening, but we are live nonetheless. Whether you are listening to this live or listening to this sometime in the future, Rich, people will be listening to this in the future. Which is actually no different than any other show.
It's literally every episode we've ever done. But yes, it's so weird. These future people. Hi, future people.
Yeah, but now there is a small select group of listeners listening to this live as it happens. And I have to say, 99 out of 100 shows we do, it is one clean, perfect 3-hour take. No breaks, no flubs, no need for editing. I'm telling you right now, we're going to screw up about 19 times on this one, because everybody's listening to it.
Oh, for sure. And there's like an extra nervousness to this as well. Like I was thinking about it getting ready, and I don't know if it's like super nervous or just kind of this like energy that because I was like, we went live like last weekend with the WrestleMania, had probably more people listening to that. But for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, it's a flagship. Oh man, it's 3 hours, like, and everyone's gonna listen and everyone's waiting. You know what I mean? Like those other live streams, people are just like, oh, cool, Joe and Richard talk, but they're waiting for this one for some reason. I could feel it. I could feel that energy. People just dying to hear us screw up.
It doesn't make me nervous. I mean, we've gone live before, just never for the full 3-hour flagship or however long this show goes. Who knows if we have 3 hours worth of content? Maybe less, maybe more. Who knows? But what made me nervous doing the 2 WrestleMania recap shows last weekend was I had the chat room pulled up, and that was distracting to me. Mm-hmm. Reading people's thoughts on what we were saying in real time, that was a distraction. So I'm not going to have that open anymore, because that really did kind of throw me off at a couple points. Because, in real time, you've got people like either disputing what you're saying or adding on to what you're saying. And then I'm in a groove here, and that throws me off when that happens. So I'm going to ignore the chat in the little room you got set up for the live listening. And to me, now it's just another show. I mean, it's the same show we do every week. It's just these people listening live, they're not going to get the bells and whistles, that's all. They don't get the intro. If we go bouncing, they don't get the music. So that's really the only difference. But got a ton to get to.
Way to sell it. Way to sell it, Joe. Jesus Christ.
No, I from my own perspective, that's how I view it.
I know. You're just like, yeah, I'm not going to pay attention to all you, and none of you are listening, and you're not going to get all the bells and whistles and shit. But hey, $10.
So for your $10 a month, I will ignore you. That's basically
go on business as usual. Well, I will check out the chat room. It is a little distracting, but I've got kind of used to it. So I will try to interact with some people from time to time. But I do understand that when we do these, like we do the instant reaction stuff like that, that's kind of fun, kind of loose or whatever. But man, Voice of Wrestling, the flagship, it's hyper focused, man. It's 3 hours of like, you got to have your takes ready. So I can't be, like you're saying, I can't be every minute looking at the chat room, every minute responding, because I got to get ready for that take. I got to get ready for that response.
Yeah, I'm going to ignore the chat. But it was my guinea pig last week. The chat was too distracting for me, so I'm going to blow it off. But what this does give these people is, we don't have to – it's like if you're one of these people who are bothering us on Twitter or in the Discord, or bothering Rich, rather, every 30 seconds, hey, when's the flagship going up? Hey, when are we going to get the flagship? Now you can just listen to it when we're fucking doing it, and you don't have to harass Rich for 24 hours straight, wondering when he's going to upload the thing, because you don't have to wait anymore. Now you can just listen to us do it live. So got a lot to get to. WrestleMania, Fallout, and our sort of Big picture thoughts on WrestleMania now that we're almost 1 week removed from the event. And then the Revival finally got what they've been asking for. They have been released by the WWE. There's some XFL news that we have to talk about that I think a lot of people may be misinterpreting. And then there's a lot of stuff to get to in Japan. Rich, this is a Big Japan podcast now.
We only cover Big Japan. Yeah, I've watched more Big Japan in the last 2 weeks because they're just, I mean, of all the companies, they just kind of seem like they're just kind of doing their thing, just kind of soldiering on. We'll talk about how that's not really the case moving forward. But yeah, for the last month or so, it's been like, there's always Big Japan for you. There's some other companies that are popping up. All Japan's got a show. We're going to talk about that. There's, some Noah shows we're going to talk about. But man, Old Reliable has just been Big Japan, man. If you need some graps, Big Japan's there for you. Whenever you need them to. I've watched so much Big Japan over the last month, and I'm not complaining. It's been pretty good stuff.
Yeah, Big Japan, one of the few promotions that never really stopped their regular routine. They just kept their normal touring going with fans all of this time. That is coming to an end, though. Luckily, too, it was during the Strong Climb, so at least it was interesting shows. At least it wasn't Big Japan on some just normal rank and file tour. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I could have sat through those shows.
No, I definitely skipped those. Yeah, but watching 4 or 5 Strong Climb matches in a given video or whatever makes it a lot easier. Then it's like, oh, okay, cool. These are like, and they're all like, and we'll talk about it when we discuss it a little bit today. I mean, I've been really impressed by a lot of the work. But yeah, if it was half show or if it was 2 good matches and then a bunch of boring ass deathmatch shit, I probably would not be watching these shows. But yeah, it came at a very, very good time.
So we'll get to the Big Japan and we'll catch everybody up on where things. As I burp on air.
There it is. I would have never edited that burp anyway. Yeah, I just keep it in.
Absolutely not. That would have been there. And that's because I took a gigantic gulp of the Coke Z before we started to clear out my throat. I've been coughing a lot, Rich.
Oh, good. Fantastic.
I've been coughing a lot, Rich. I don't know. Could be the thing. You never know. But we'll get to the Big Japan, catch everybody up on Strong Climb. And then, as Rich said, there was an all-Japan, no people show, which I thought was very interesting. So we will talk about the All Japan No People show with a very hyped main event. But I think I like the undercard better than I like the main event.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
But we'll get to that.
The main event, the main event, Edge and Orton and Gargano and Ciampa are all still going on as we're recording this show. So we'll see when those end, and we can give instant reactions to every single one of those matches as they end. So
a good transition then into our first topic, because one thing I've learned with the no people shows, empty arena shows, whatever you want to call them, shorter is better. I think I can at least settle on that opinion. The longer these things go, the more experimental these groups get, the less I enjoy it. That's sort of been a trend, whether it's the experimental WWE cinematic adventures or, what they tried in the Noah main event a couple of weeks ago that we talked about, the staring contest for 32 minutes, the All Japan main event. And look, I get it. They put basically their top 6 guys in a main event and, told them to kill a full hour. And I get it. I get the idea behind all of these different attempts to work around not having fans. But man, the stuff that I seem to have liked best has been the stuff that's been short, snug, hard-hitting, get to the point. That seems to be at least my preferred way of handling the no fans.
Yeah, so when we talk about the All Japan show, we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, you kind of told me, hey, that, watch this All Japan show and be ready. The main event's very long. Get prepared for that main event. But the undercard is really good. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. And I'm watching these matches, and they're going by pretty quickly. They're ending in a few minutes or whatnot. And I'm thinking, okay, that's... And the first match happened and it ended in like 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then the next match is like 5 minutes long. I'm like, all right, I get it. And then they have like 3 or 4 matches and they all end in like 5 to 10 minutes, all in this short little period. And I kind of came away the same way you did as well, being like, you know what, that was pretty cool. I enjoy that. I like that when it's kind of snappy. And that's if anybody who listened to our instant reaction on night 1 of WrestleMania, that was our thought, is like, cool. They changed their style. They reduced the time that the matches went. They didn't get too full of themselves. They just went in, did their work, and got out of there. Like Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn was like, it didn't need to go 10 extra minutes. It did what it needed to do, and it got out of there. And that's pretty much what the entire night 1 of WrestleMania was. And still, in retrospect, a week later, whatever, in hindsight, that WrestleMania Night 1, I will still put up among any of the empty arena stuff I've seen so far over the last few months, because I think it was just a concise show. It was a good show. It was a tight little, 3.5 hours or whatever. Every match had enough time, but not too much time. And even the Boneyard thing, we'll talk about again in a bit, even that didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. Whereas WrestleMania Night 2 and a lot of the other stuff I've been seeing lately, especially this NXT that we'll talk about this week as well, it's a lot of companies are deciding, how do we do this? We need to have longer matches, bigger matches, lengthier stuff and cinematic and all this sort of stuff. And maybe for some people that works, but for me, I'm just liking these tight 5 to 10 minute matches. Get in, get out, do your stuff, have a nice simple match and move on. That stuff works for me. That worked on night 1 of WrestleMania for me. It worked in the All Japan. It's worked, I think, largely for AEW. I think they've done a pretty good job of sort of tailoring their TV to that. Whereas, WrestleMania Night 2, NXT, this All Japan main event, the Noah thing, I'm not into just sitting and watching an hour-long match or an hour-long segment or whatever. That stuff is starting to grind on me a little bit, and that sort of stuff is making me dislike empty arena wrestling way more than any other aspect of empty arena wrestling. And the small stuff, the quick matches, the hard-hitting stuff, the passionate, that stuff's got me. That stuff's hooking me, and that stuff's making me not, I don't care. I don't care if there's no fans. I watched that All Japan show and I got 2 matches in and I didn't even realize there were no fans. I don't know. I was just stupid, I guess. But I'm realizing, and they're quick. They're shot well. They're tight shot. It's all that sort of stuff that we'll talk about when we get there. And I was like, man, I didn't even realize there were no fans here. Whereas these long hour slogs, they I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of them. And we've had a lot of them in this last week and the last 2 weeks.
I think it even speaks to when we were reviewing the WrestleMania matches over the weekend. And if people want the match-by-match reviews of the 2 WrestleMania shows, you get those on the $10 tier behind the paywall. I think we did over 3 hours of total content between the 2 nights. So if you want the front-to-back deep dive on the WrestleMania shows, match-by-match, the way that you guys know we like to do, that's there for you. We're not going to do it again today. We can't repeat all of our same talking points. This is going to be more big picture thoughts on WrestleMania now that we're a week removed and some of the fallout coming out of the show. Mm-hmm. But I think when we reviewed those shows, what you're saying here and what we're talking about is all of the matches sort of feel longer when there's no fans, because there were a few matches at WrestleMania where, as we were reviewing them, we were like, this match was so fucking long. I couldn't believe how long this match went. And then you would look it up and be like, Joe, the match was 16 minutes. And then we were like, no fucking way. That match had to be, 28 minutes long. So that's even more reason to kind of keep these things tight and keep them short, because the longer you stay out there with no fans, the more noticeable it is that you're staying out there with no fans. So I don't know. To me, it feels to me like shorter is better. I'm starting to wear thin on the no fan stuff, but it's the reality right now. And that's all we're going to have for, moving forward. Now, Dynamite this past week, I thought, the atmosphere there was much improved again because they had the wrestlers back on the outside of the ring. The All Japan show, I thought what they did worked perfectly. I mean, they dimmed the lights, number one. Couldn't even see the seats.
Yeah, they cut everything. Yeah, you could only see the ring, which is perfect.
I don't know why nobody else has thought of that. They dimmed the lights, all tight shots with the ring. And then what they were doing as the wrestlers were finishing their matches, those guys were going and then sitting in the seats. So then by the time the main event came around, you had 20 guys
screaming Kanto, Kanto, Kanto.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
And everybody else from the card is now sitting in the seats along with, the office people and whoever else was there. So it kind of what it did was it created a vibe where the deeper you got into the card, the rowdier the crowd was, because there were simply more people in the crowd. And it kind of was like the natural escalation of a real show, right? Where the crowd might not be as amped up for the prelims as they are for the main event. So I thought the atmosphere at the All Japan show was excellent. I thought AEW Dynamite has been hit or miss. When they're allowed to have the wrestlers around ringside, I think they've done a great job. And as we've talked about a million times, WWE, WrestleMania included, has been just the hardest to watch and the hardest to get through. I don't know what it is about the Performance Center and Full Sail that just hasn't worked. Initially we know it was the hard camera placement and those things, but they adjusted. They copied AEW. They started doing tighter camera shots. But for whatever reason, it's Is it because WWE is so bright? Is it all of the? I don't know. It's just they seem to, those for me at least, seem to be the hardest shows to get through.
Yeah, and I think at WrestleMania we saw a little bit of an improvement. We talked about it the night of, is that, especially night one and through parts of night two, there seemed to be a different idea and a different sort of ideology from the wrestlers as well. I don't know if that kit was top down, I don't know if the producers came up with that, but everything was a little stiffer, everything was a little harder. They were basically like, hey, yell a little bit more, be more vocal, hit a little harder, hit a little tighter, make everything look a little bit better, look a little more snug, because that's the way we're going to be able to get by this. And I think that they, in a way, have adjusted a little bit better. But there was also the idea, too, of doing it back-to-back days and having to sit down for 7 hours of empty arena wrestling. It's just, it's too much. It wears on you. And that's not to say night one was a better night than night two, but there were aspects of night two that were still pretty good. But even then, like halfway through, you're just like, oh, man, I'm kind of over this. I'm sort of done with all this empty arena stuff, and I kind of just want to watch anything or do anything else. So that, I think the length of the shows, combined in the 2 days, probably played into it. But I will say, I will give WWE a little bit of credit, because they have, in some ways, sort of changed and altered the way that they produce the wrestling. Like you said, the hard camera has changed. The work has changed a little bit. They've tried to do a little bit more with trying to, at least adapt to it. But then they've also, in some ways, and I guess we'll talk about it maybe here right now, is they've also pivoted to a lot of the, okay, well, for our big time matches, we'll go cinematic. We'll go with what we had with the Boneyard match, or the One Last Beats match between Gargano and Ciampa, or the Firefly Funhouse or whatever. They've kind of pivoted in that direction as well. Is saying, hey, look, we can't fix some of this stuff. We can't really fake an Undertaker match. We can't really fake like a big grudge match in front of no fans. So let's go in this direction. Let's go cinematic. Let's go with this sort of stuff. And, for some people it's working, for some people it's not. It's kind of a match-by-match case in a lot of ways, where the Boneyard match seemed to have worked for everybody for reasons we'll kind of talk about here and maybe sort of reflect on what we had, our opinions were last weekend as well. The Funhouse, varying degrees as well. I think we could probably talk about that a little bit too. And then Gargano Ciampa, which I know you talked about in the TV reviews at patreon.com/Voices Wrestling, a little plug there. But that one seems to be universally panned. And now I do wonder if maybe WWE, like they want to do, like they do often, maybe is going a little too heavy into that right now and has already kind of ruined that sort of, quote, cinematic or that sort of feel for people as well. Because we've seen now 3 matches in that vein, in that similar sort of vein, and each one has maybe had less, for various reasons, but each one has had less sort of praise as it's gone on. And I do wonder if they might overdo that if they continue going in that path.
I think they would have done 2 of them anyway. I think people are off base when they say, oh, WWE just, they're adjusting to circumstances. So, they're trying new things. I think the Boneyard match and the Bray thing would have happened whether we had this situation or not. Now the third one, no, because that was just going to be a takeover match. The Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa match was just going to be the main event at TakeOver. It was going to be their blow-off. Actually, though, to be honest, they probably would have had the same exact match just with fans.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, and that's kind of my take on that match as well, and we'll get to it in a little bit more detail, but like, it was exactly what I expected it to be. It was just kind of hokey because it was done in the cinematic thing, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with all this stuff. And I guess we could talk about it when we talk about Boneyard match and Firefly Funhouse thing or whatever. If people didn't hear our takes on those originally. You and I weren't really mad about them. We weren't really like annoyed about those matches. I think you and I are both kind of in the same wavelength, and I'm still at this wavelength. Like, yeah, they're fine. They were okay. They were like fun or whatever, but like, I don't really think that they're any transcendent, like, game-changing, oh my god, wrestling now always needs to be this, and this is what wrestling should be, and all the evolution of the art form and all that sort of stuff, because that's what we were hearing this weekend. And I actually kind of wanted to hear what your take was, because we haven't talked about this since WrestleMania. But do you think that people have sort of calmed down on that a little bit? It felt like in the moment, like it did for deletions and all this other stuff, like anytime one of these matches happens, in the moment, it's like, oh my god, wrestling has changed forever. We'll never go back to wrestling matches. This is the way it needs to be forever. And then little by little, it kind of goes down and goes away and it goes away. And now we're like a week later, and I feel like that's sort of calmed down a little bit. I feel like the people screaming about how this is what wrestling should always be, those people have kind of been stomped down, or maybe the excitement of the night of has kind of worn off. And now we're kind of back to being like, yeah, it was fun for what it was, but let's not get ahead of ourselves too much.
I think whenever anybody really enjoys anything, you're going to have some hyperbole in the moment. So I do think there's some of that. But I do think there's still some people who genuinely feel that way and would like to see more of this stuff. And there's no way for me to make the next point without sounding condescending, without sounding like I'm an elitist, without sounding rude. But I
think we are all of those, though, so that's okay. That's fine.
Hey, listen, most of the time I am. That is correct.
We are what we are. So.
But on this following point, I really don't intend it from that sort of in that sort of way. I think the people who genuinely feel that way, who think that wrestling should be more of this, they just don't. They're not pro wrestling fans. I think that what they want is something that isn't pro wrestling, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like we tried to convey last weekend, but I never feel like we do a good enough job conveying. You could like what you like, and if you like this stuff, that's great, but that's not what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is not a carefully choreographed, professionally filmed B-movie fight scene. That's not pro wrestling. So if you like that, that's great. If you want more of that, that's great. But, you're trying to inherently change what pro wrestling is. You want something other than pro wrestling to entertain you. Same thing with the Bray thing. That's not even a match. That was just, it was a video. It was just it was a vignette. A
package video. Yeah,
it was a video. It was a video package with Bray's vision of John Cena's character arc is what it was. But it wasn't a wrestling match. And it's like, again, it didn't upset me because if a promotion that I was emotionally invested in had presented these things, I'd be really upset and I'd be screaming and yelling about them, because if I emotionally invest in a wrestling company, that's sort of breaking their trust with me if they do things that are not pro wrestling, that exceed the bounds of my accepted level of kayfabe, and they break that trust with me. I'm going to be annoyed. Like when I was screaming and yelling about Matt Hardy, and his disappearing act on Dynamite a few weeks ago. That bothered me, and I was annoyed by it, and I was mad online because that's not what AEW is to me. So it annoyed me. WWE can do this stuff, and it doesn't bother me because I'm not emotionally invested. I don't care what they do. I keep them at arm's length more and more. Like, it's not even an arm anymore. I keep them at like fucking a COVID length at this point. There's a 6-foot distance between me and WWE at this point in my life. I don't care what they do. They can put a title on anybody they want. They can do these dopey videos all they want. They can have Undertaker be fucking magical all they want, because they have already run me off from being invested in what they do. I watch them at arm's length, and I enjoy the good stuff that they do give me, and I don't get worked up when they do things that used to annoy me. But if you want more of this stuff, you just don't. It's just, you don't want pro wrestling, because that's not what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is not John Cena having a match in his mind against a monster. I mean, it's just absurd. It's you cross any line of you cross. Everyone has their own line of accepted kayfabe, and that goes well beyond mine. Were these things well produced? Yeah, they were. Well, the NXT one was not. I think we could talk about that one more in depth because we haven't talked about it yet. But the other two were very well produced, okay, by the standards of wrestling. And I understand why people enjoyed them. If that became the future of WWE, on one hand, I would hate that, because WWE is the market leader, and I don't want to see wrestling go in that direction, because that's not wrestling anymore. But on the other hand, that'd be kind of cool, because then I could just write them off completely.
I mentioned that when I finished watching the NXT thing. I was like, you know what? If they decide to pivot to this, and this is like the new normal, that's good. Cool. I'll just watch Japan and Indies all day. Like, that's fine. You know what, guys? Knock yourself out. Go do that, because, like you said, then it ceases to be pro wrestling. Then I don't feel like, because we always say on the show, and people always say, oh, you guys don't have to talk about WWE since you don't, if you hate it or all this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but we do, though. I mean, we say that all the time. Like, the shows that we talk about WWE do better than the other shows. The shows that we talk about and preview WWE do better than the other shows. The articles that we post that are about WWE do better than all of our other stuff. They're the market leader. They're what people listen to, care about, follow, whatever you want to say. Like, we just can't ignore them. We can't do this sort of show and just ignore WWE. We have pared it down to the absolute, like, the last amount that we can do. We cover the major shows, we cover the major news, all that sort of stuff. But otherwise, we're not watching Raw. We're not reviewing Raw and SmackDown. We've always said if we wanted to make the most money on this website, you and I every single fucking Monday night would go on here and go, all right, Joe, here's what happened on Raw. Like, you know what I mean? Or, hey, here's SmackDown. Braun Strowman came out and said, someone's going to get these hands. Like, we could do that. And we'd make way more money than we do now, but I'd rather kill myself than do that. I'd rather have COVID, like Joe, than do that.
We would, I think, conservatively, we would double our subscribers if we reviewed Raw and SmackDown, like, live right after the show's ended. The way that Post does and Figure 4 Weekly does. I mean, and I'm not knocking those guys. Okay, but if we did that, we could double our subscriber. But we can't do it. I can't.
No,
I would hate my life.
I just even saying it, I almost threw up just thinking about watching SmackDown and going, yeah, sorry, Michelle, I'll be in bed in 1 minute. I just got to, in an hour, I just have to talk to Joe about Braun Strowman telling Baron Corbin to get these hands. So I'll be right back. Like, it would infuriate me.
So next, Rich, Liv Morgan took on Sarah Logan. I can't do it. I mean, I give those guys a lot of credit.
It's so hard. Yeah. People don't understand. I mean, in the same breath that you're saying, like, we're not putting them down for doing it by saying that we would never do it. But mostly because I don't know what I would talk about. It would be the most boring hour show ever because, yeah, you saying, okay, Liv Morgan beat Sarah Logan. She won via roll-up by distraction. So what do you think about that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Sarah Logan will win next week. Who cares? Yeah. Like, that's our show right there. That's the first hour. It's just.
And the other problem is 90% of the time we wouldn't like what we were watching. So it wouldn't be interesting to listen. It would be interesting to listen to, like, the first couple of weeks. Listen to these two maniacs just tear WWE apart. By week 3 or week 4, everybody would be bored. By week 5 or week 6 or week 7 or week 10, everyone would think that we were just grumps who were trying not to like. You cannot win in that situation. And honestly, it would turn us into grumps who are trying not to like, because we fucking hate ourselves for forcing ourselves to do it every week. But it's kind of drifting off the main point. But the main point here is, I mean, people like I've talked about this for like 3 weeks now, but people like, it's like they tend to really get into anything that's different, especially in the moment, whether it's the staring contest match or these kind of matches, they're so different that it's like it hits people and they're like, whoa, this is, but here's the thing. If Go Shiozaki and Kaz Fujita stared at each other for a half hour before every match, you'd grow to hate it very quickly. And if WWE did this stuff and just pivoted hard towards this, and this kind of became the house style, music playing while the matches are going on, matches filmed more like fight sequences than traditional pro wrestling matches, just all kinds of mystical bullshit and everything else, it would tank the company. Because people like this stuff as an occasional taste in the moment. But if you overload on this, it's not pro wrestling anymore. So you're going to run off everybody that just wants to watch wrestling, which is most of your audience. And the people who think that this is what they want wrestling to be would be tired of it very quickly.
Right.
Very quickly. How many could you really watch something like a Boneyard match every week? I mean, even if you liked it, ask yourself that. It would wear out very quickly because at that point, it's not pro wrestling anymore. It's just a bad TV show. And there's good TV shows out there for you to watch if you want that kind of thing that aren't starring pro wrestlers who are bad at acting. So it would wear off very quickly and it would bomb tremendously. And quite honestly, we have sort of the template for that already. And it seems to be the answer that the people who want to argue the opposite way always give when they say, Lucha Underground did it, and Lucha Underground was great. Right, but you just owned yourself. Because Lucha Underground failed. Because they tried that, and the deeper they pivoted into this kind of stuff, the less people that watched. So, and then eventually, it became unsustainable, and they went out of business. So, I mean... just the long-winded answer to the question you asked originally is I think that there probably are people who wouldn't mind seeing wrestling go in this direction, but I think they're far fewer than you think, because in the moment it feels like everybody is all into this when it's new and it's happening in the moment. But what you realize is you're extrapolating Twitter and giving it more importance, which is something we all fall victim to all the time. That's number one. And number two, it's something that people are excited about in the moment, and that's always going to be extrapolated, and it's going to seem like it's a stronger movement than it really is. So it's no, I don't think it would work, and I think WWE is smart enough to know that. Can they control themselves and not even overdo it? No, I mean, that's entirely possible that they do more of these in the short term based on the success of the ones that they've done. But there's going to be diminishing returns every time. Now, The Fiend isn't going anywhere. So we're definitely going to see more stuff in this direction when it comes to The Fiend. And that, out of the three, was the one that got the strongest positive response. We're truly, Rich, out on an island when it comes to that one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know that.
Well, and look, we're never afraid to have unpopular opinions. So that doesn't bother me. And I think that the people who listen to the show understand that we were never going to like something like that. And it's not even that. Look, I don't think you hated it. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it either. I'm just so neutral on it. I just didn't
think it was that good. It was, this thing.
Now listen, it's so overrated. I mean, the whole thing with I mean, this whole thing with subtext, and we have to have Up Rocks writing think pieces on it and breaking down every frame, and Sam Roberts talking about break. It doesn't really require that. It wasn't nearly that deep or that interesting. I mean, it wasn't even like there was no subtext. I mean, Bray Wyatt literally walked you through the entire video and explained everything that was happening. Where's the subtext? It's like this had the subtlety of a blunt object. They hit you over the head with what all of this meant. So from that perspective, super overrated. Was it well done? Was it interesting that John Cena would agree to a deconstruction of his character in this way? Sure. All of that was interesting. And I thought it was, well done by wrestling standards, but I could live without it. I didn't need this. I mean, I think they could have had an interesting match and told the same story with true subtext. You know what I mean? If they had a real wrestling match, they could have told this story using actual subtext, and it would have went over a lot of people's heads. But they chose to do it this way. This was probably the right way to go because it was a massive success.
Right. So
I can't dispute that. But, do I think it's some masterful work of art that was was a work of brilliance? I mean, come on, can we pump the brakes, please? I mean, the guy, not only did Bray explain everything step by step, Cena was doing wardrobe changes to fucking. I mean, they couldn't make what was happening more obvious throughout the whole thing, And if Cena hypothetically joining the NWO. I mean, if you can't tie that to a hypothetical Cena heel turn, I mean, that's not subtext. I mean, you're an idiot if you're not picking up on these things. I mean, you have to be stupid if you didn't understand what was going on in this video.
Yeah, it is. It's been pretty the reaction, because like the Boneyard reaction in the moment was, oh my god, this is incredible. This is like the best thing I've ever seen in my life, and yada yada yada, and all that sort of stuff. And what's sort of the way it's sort of pivoted from Saturday or whatever isn't necessarily that people think it's bad now. People are just understanding, okay, yeah, it was fun. It was fun because it was really bad, and it was like really campy, and it was a B movie and that sort of stuff. And that I'm perfectly fine with. That take and that opinion and that thought or whatever, I have no problem with that, because that's exactly what I thought the entire time. I thought, okay, this is kind of fun bad. I'm kind of smirking, I'm kind of laughing a little bit. That's fine. To me, that it is what it is. And if you want to say this is the best use of The Undertaker these days, hell, you might be right. That's fine. If this is what The Undertaker is going to be moving forward, I won't like it, but whatever. It doesn't intellectually like annoy me on any level anymore, because knowing that people, and I sent this question out, yesterday on Twitter as well, just like, hey, tell me why this match was important. And every single person and every single response was basically, hey, it was funny and it was kind of like campy and it was kind of like a B movie. And that's fine. That's cool with me. The Bray stuff, though, the
Boneyard match would destroy my suspension of disbelief for any other wrestling company that I pay attention to, though.
Because it's shit. I mean, it's not good. Like, I'm not saying it's good, but you're telling me that it's bullshit and it's fun bad or whatever, and that's fine for that company, but yeah.
Correct. Because they're telling us AJ Styles is dead. Rich, I can't come back from that. If AEW tells me one of their characters are dead, then AEW's done to me. Then I will treat them the same way I treat WWE or Lucha Underground, in that I'm no longer invested and I may not watch anymore, which is why I made that same point with the Hardy stuff. And they're going to do a Hardy fucking deletion thing in a couple of weeks, and we'll see how that goes. I might explode. But I completely agree when it comes to Boneyard. It's campy, it's cheesy. The thing is, I don't want my wrestling to be campy and cheesy.
I don't want that either. I'll just go watch campy, cheesy movies instead. I'd rather watch pro wrestling, so.
Now, in small doses, if you have undercard characters who are campy, that's one thing. But you can't be killing off characters and stuff. Now, do I believe there's some people who really would enjoy that in their wrestling? Yes, I just think it's a very small universe of people, and I don't think they realize how small they are, because, again, we had the test case already. So, yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
But then I was going to say the what I've been kind of waiting for on the Firefly Funhouse is, okay, when's that going to sort of change? When's the tide on that going to sort of change? And Joe, it hasn't. It's just led to a bunch of people saying, "Oh, that's what an incredible tale of John Cena's career and peeling back the curtain, but giving subtext and this." And I'm reading this and I'm like, what is going on? Like, there was a Ringer piece the other day, and it's one of these, like, I think we talked about it the day of the Firefly Funhouse, and we said we will be right eventually. We were right about the deletion shit. We're gonna be right eventually, because in this, I think it was the Ringer. I don't want to call out the wrong one, but I'm almost positive it was the Ringer. Whoever their author was wrote an article about how this is like the way that wrestling needs to go in this coronavirus era, and instead of having fake sporting, it should be embracing its whatever the hellness. I forget exactly what it was, and what it brought up, it brought up past examples of this happening in wrestling. And as I'm reading this, I'm reading it going like, these are all really bad examples for this case that you're making, because all these things fucking suck. It was like Kevin Sullivan in the 80s. It was the King of the Road match. It was Papa Shango. It was like all this sort of stuff. And I'm reading, I'm like, this isn't telling your tale very well. The Hollywood backlot brawl was mentioned, and all these ones.
White Castle of Fear.
Yeah, the White Castle of Fear. And I'm like, these were all unmitigated disasters. Like, history laughs at these. The King of the Road match is a laughable part in WCW history. Just absolutely ridiculous. The White Castle of Fear was just them lighting money on fucking fire for no reason whatsoever. And even at the time, it was considered stupid and annoying and weird. And then now in history, it's like, oh my God, can you believe that these idiots spent this much money on the White Castle of Fear and the Beach Blast and all this sort of stuff? And this article is bringing up these examples of past times when wrestling has embraced what it should be. And I'm like, if this is your examples, if this is the case that you're making, then we're going to be just all right, Joe, because all these things were unmitigated disasters, fucking failures when they happened. And yeah, people can in the week be like, oh man, that's what wrestling needs to be, and that's what it is. And I think you kind of mentioned a little bit as well, but like you said, that the people that aren't wrestling fans are maybe embracing this more, the people that are searching for something more in their wrestling instead of just wrestling. And I think also it does shine a light, and maybe it's to WWE's credit that they did this during WrestleMania, that maybe you had a bunch of new people that would have never watched wrestling before but said, fuck it, I'll watch WrestleMania. Yeah, there's nothing else going on, I'll check out WrestleMania, and saw this and said, oh, this is fun, this is cool, this is interesting. And those people sort of led to a little bit more of this like uprising of, oh, this is pretty cool, and it's leading to a lot of these think pieces and all that sort of stuff, because those people are not wrestling fans. So to them, this might be pretty cool. This might be pretty fun. If you didn't know that John Cena was training in OVW and then came up and then slapped Kurt Angle and did Ruthless Aggression or whatever, you might find that kind of interesting. When John Cena came out in his little OVW gear, I was like, all right, here we go. It's a fucking John Cena Ruthless Aggression thing. Like, all right, you didn't know that Dr. Thugonomics ever existed. You didn't know, like, I could get that maybe you would find this interesting, but yeah, this is like, I was just kind of left with the same thought that you had, like, all right, cool. This is like, they're basically pointing a giant arrow and telling you, this is Dr. of Thugonomics John Cena. Oh, hey, here's OVW John Cena. Oh, here's like bright color John Cena. It's like, okay, cool. Like, it's nothing. I mean, it's honestly not much different than what the Money in the Bank thing was. If you remember with CM Punk basically saying, you call yourself an underdog, you call yourself all this, but you're the New York Yankees, man. You get everything. Yeah. And like, they already did this story. So like, for anybody that was watching for a long time, it's not a new, different, or interesting story. Like, they've leaned into that with John Cena for a while. So I'm just left with like just kind of stunned amazement that like we're still at this point where people think this is some different, unique, interesting way to tell a wrestling story. It was a video package that, I don't know, I mean, it was kind of goofy and kind of campy, but I don't know. It's very bizarre.
You know, you're right, because they've already deconstructed John Cena already in this very same company. I hadn't even thought of that. But they've done this already. They did it with CM Punk. You're absolutely right. You know,
and the story was that you're this company man, you act like you're against everybody, and you're a company man or whatever. So then
you're a hypocrite,
right? Yeah, and that was the whole story. And then and Cena kind of plays up that in the match because Cena and Vince and Johnny Ace come down and they want to screw over CM Punk, and John Cena's like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to prove that I'm not a hypocrite here. I'm trying not to be a part of this. So he stops them, and he kind of in that moment has this sort of vulnerability or whatever. But hey, this is weird because all this happened in a fucking wrestling match, and it's an incredible wrestling match. More of that, please. I like this more than some. You could tell the same story in a pro wrestling match and do it much better in this medium,
with real subtext,
right?
Instead of spoon feeding it to people. I agree, and I hadn't even thought of that. But in most of the examples that you gave in that Ringer article, didn't make money and were total bombs from that perspective too. That's the other thing. And it's funny because wrestling never goes in this direction. Well, I won't say never, but wrestling very rarely goes in this direction of trying very hard not to be wrestling, except when things are going badly. Do you notice that?
Right.
When wrestling is going well and things are going well, they tend not to do this shit. Think of a lot of the examples. I mean, TNA/Impact has done this throughout their history when things are going very badly. Well, fuck, let's just let Matt Hardy do this and see where it goes. The Undead Realm is another good example of Impact. And WCW, when they had Cheetah blowing up the boat, or they did the White Castle of Fear. This is when they were at, the literal bottom of their business in their history. So it's like, fuck it. We need to try something outside the box. When wrestling gets desperate, they think the way to attract new fans is to not be wrestling. And it never works. The way that wrestling attracts new fans or brings back the fans that they lost is to be good at wrestling. Because that's what people want when they watch wrestling. And you could even extend it to this example. It's like, why is The Undertaker doing Boneyard matches? Because he isn't good anymore.
Right, because he can't move his body anymore.
It's almost always, in the case of wrestling, it moves in this direction when what they're doing isn't working. When doing wrestling isn't working because they're bad at doing wrestling, then they revert to this stuff. You never see wrestling do this stuff when things are going well and people are buying into what they're selling. And that's an important point too. I say not always, because I mean, Memphis always did stuff like this, but Memphis was always a completely different animal. And a lot of that Memphis stuff fell flat. Some of it worked, but a lot of it fell flat. For every Memphis gimmick that worked, there was a Tagar, Lord of the Volcanoes, that is a laughingstock.
Right.
And the crazier it got in Memphis, the less successful it tended to be, with some minor exceptions. I don't know enough about Florida business to know whether or not Kevin Sullivan being satanic and all that was good for business or bad for business. I'm just not knowledgeable enough on that time and place. But I don't even think that went as far as some of this stuff. We've had characters in wrestling that were just crazy people, so I'm not even sure I agree with whoever wrote that article for The Ringer. I don't know if I would throw Kevin Sullivan into that. Now, if you want to talk Dungeon of Doom, I'm very willing to throw that into there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Master, and that was a whole different.
We have the Yeti.
Yeah, he had a literal fucking mummy. I mean, so that's funny too. It's like it's wrestling doesn't do this shit unless wrestling feels like its back is against the wall.
Right, yeah. Look through all the years that you mentioned. White Castle Fear and that shit, 1993. A terrible year for the wrestling business. 1995, the Dungeon of Doom, a horrendous year for pro wrestling business. 2019 to whatever years of Impact, terrible years for Impact Wrestling. And 1998, there was a little, bit of that, but at its core, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin, the pissed off employee, beating the fuck out of his boss. It's
which everyone can relate to. Which, isn't over the top and crazy and or any of that, so, and then when the Attitude Era starts losing steam, Ministry of Darkness, it seems like it's always kind of like not say a fallback, but these wacky ideas only come when you need to come up with wacky ideas. Right. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they do not draw money and they do not work. So moving off of Boneyard and the Firefly Funhouse deal, this NXT match.
Yeah, so Joe, okay, you got your WWE Network set up, right? We're going to do 3, 2, 1. We're going to go live. Pause to talk about the symbolism as it happens. So are you ready?
God. Oh, my God. Could you imagine?
3, 2, 1, go. All right, here we go.
Drone.
Okay, Johnny and Candice are now driving up in their Hyundai whatever. I don't know what the hell the car was.
At least with this one, like you said earlier, it's almost universal that this fucking stunk. I don't think does Ryan Satin even like this?
I don't know. Yeah, well, that'd be an interesting case to see. Okay, so Candice has handed Johnny something in a package, Joe. What is this going to be?
Are you really going
No, I'm
through
kidding.
it?
No, God, no. I'm just in my head remembering it. No, God, no. I would never watch it.
I will quit the show. I'm taking half the Patreon money from this month first, but I'm quitting the show. Yeah, this was horrendous. And it's weird because I feel like they could have had the exact same match in the building at TakeOver at what building was this going to be in Tampa? I don't even know. Wherever the Lightning play, I guess.
Yeah. I forget what the name of that thing is, but yeah, the Lightning building. We'll go with that.
Is that really all they do in that? Because there's no basketball team down there.
No, yeah, I don't know. I think that's all they do there, which is a little strange.
Kind of a waste.
It seems like a waste of an arena, but yeah, you know what?
There's no big college team down there or nothing. It's just
there's no arena football team there anymore. I believe the arena football's gone. No Tampa Bay Storm anymore. I believe that's it. I believe it's the Lightning. Don't ask how I remember it that the Tampa Bay Storm was the Tampa Bay arena football team.
You and Lance Archer are big.
I loved arena football, man. Yeah, Archer was all in, man.
So, yeah, I don't think anyone liked this. And it's like, but I think they could have had the same exact match in front of fans. I could easily see them having the same match in front of fans. So without the fans, they decided to turn this into the worst example of this cinematic stuff that we've seen. You had the dopey music in the beginning to kind of set the scene. Triple H sitting in a smoky ring, sitting in the corner like Raven. What was that about?
I have no idea.
Except he had a chair. Like Raven just sat in the corner on the floor, right? He would watch Dancing Stevie Richards act like a fool, and then he'd eventually stand up. But Triple H sitting there like Raven on the chair. Oh, I know. He had the chair because he tossed the chair dramatically into the center of the ring, telling the boys, go ahead and kill each other. That's why he had the chair, right? I figured that out. The subtext, Rich.
There you go. Yeah, see, you're learning. That's good. We haven't even gotten to that part yet, so congratulations for getting ahead of the game.
I could write for Uprocks now. So he throws the chair. He says, this match is going to start when I leave the door. Drake Wirtz is here, and you're going to listen to everything he says. And then they proceeded to not listen to anything Drake Wirtz said.
That was actually, honestly, the thing that was probably annoyed me the most about this match, and I will say, it was bad. No question. It was bad, and I hated it. But I think I hated it a little bit less than the Firefly Funhouse thing because it was bad, and I didn't have people tell me that it was good. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like I can swallow this one easier because it was fucking garbage, and everybody knew it was fucking garbage, and we can all universally agree that it was fucking garbage. So we don't have to pretend that it was good. And I like that.
And it was 52 minutes long.
Yeah, I love it. So I know that I watched it spoiled and I knew it was going to be long and I knew it was going to be bad or whatever. But yeah, 10 minutes in where Drake's like, Johnny, you don't have to do this, Johnny. Come on, Johnny. I'm like, oh my God, we're 10 minutes in. Like, how long is this going to happen? Because he's not going to just stop telling him to stop doing this. But yeah, Johnny Gargano hits like a DDT on the floor and he's like, come on, Johnny, he's had enough. And I'm like, whoa, no.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God. Like, we're already doing that and we're a quarter of the way through this and already have Drake Wirtz being like, that's enough. Come on, guys, stop. And I'm like, oh,
I was hoping they had like Kona Reeves versus Vink on standby or something, and this thing wouldn't be 54 minutes long. But I wouldn't mind. You know what, Rich? At this point, I really wouldn't mind a nice little 8-minute Kona Reeves Vink match.
Yeah.
Just go out there and wrestle. Honestly, I could really use that about now. But so yeah, and then Tommaso Ciampa's cutting the ring apron off, and Drake Wirtz is telling him, you don't have to go this far. You've done everything you could do to each other. And I'm thinking they've already cut the ring apron off in another match. Right. Like, these guys are completely empty when it comes to ideas because they've had like 4 of these matches already, and they're all like a half hour long. This one, they got to go an hour. And he's like, I'm like, have they done everything to each other? They've done all of this already. And then they end up on top of the truck. Bad quality control with Edge and Orton being up there 4 days earlier. And, and then the finish is completely absurd with the fucking ball kicking. And Johnny's wearing the cup, which is what Candace handed him.
Oh, my God. Oh, the art of this.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. And then it's like people are going, I can't believe they turned Candace heel. Rich, let me ask you a question. Is helping out your husband turning heel? I don't even shouldn't she help out her husband in this scenario and not the other guy? I mean, I don't know if that's actually a heel move, but
I don't know. I don't know who's what anymore with this. Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I guess people can call that a heel move, but it really, again, she just wants her husband back. And the thing that's going to get her husband back is to stop fighting this asshole Ciampa. So I don't know. I'm on the train that Ciampa's always been a heel, and Johnny's in the right here, so I'm probably the wrong audience here. But yeah, Daddy's Home has been a heel for the beginning for me, and he's been a vile, horrible human being for years. But he got hurt, so we're supposed to think he's cool now. And Johnny's like, fuck this guy, and we're supposed to think he sucks. So I don't know anymore, man.
Tommaso Ciampa did nothing noble to turn face other than get hurt and come back. I mean, this is another one of these WWE stories where the heel is in the right and should really be the babyface, because Gargano has been wronged by this man every step of the way, and he was rightfully annoyed that the fans had rallied behind this guy. So it's like, how can you not see things Gargano's way? But his wife helps him out. But that wasn't even the finish, as bad as it was, and it's an all-time bad finish. That wasn't even the worst part of the match. The worst part of the match was when Tommaso Ciampa finally did his face turn, heel turn. I don't know what kind of turn, but he's holding hands with Johnny Gargano. And he's saying to Johnny, what did he say to him when he held his hands? Was he apologizing? And he's saying, we don't have to do this. After this epic 50-minute battle where they tried to kill each other, after Johnny gets kicked in the balls by his wife, now this guy wants to, it's all one order under the bridge. Let's let bygones be bygones. Let's hold hands and hug it out and be bros again. Which is even, again, Tommaso Ciampa is so annoying throughout all of this story and throughout this whole match. And then he gets kicked in his balls, and Gargano wins the match, and presumably they're never going to wrestle again. So, you know what I would like to see happen? I'd like to see Vince McMahon just decide he wants to call them up again and have them come up as a smiling babyface tag team.
Dude, DIY. Just high five at the
DIY's back. Completely ignoring this story that Triple H has told since 2015, Rich. Do you realize this started in 2015?
Yep.
2015. And listen, it's possible to tell a 5-year story in pro wrestling. We just saw one of the best stories in the history of pro wrestling play out in New Japan over the course of about 5 or 6 years. This is not the way to do it. I mean, at some point, they just lost their way with this fucking thing. And I mean, if they just would have had one of these overwrought matches, but they had 4 or 5 of them. How many of these have they had? I mean, seriously.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'd have to, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's go to the old cage match and see. I off the top of my head, I want to say 4, but I think it's more than that. Let's see here. Joe, are you still there? I think we got our first technical issue here.
What do you mean? I'm right here.
Oh, there you are. All right. You started talking, then you went away.
People love the dead air. They love it. They love the long pause.
Okay, so we had the Cruiserweight Classic. That one doesn't count because that was a good match. It was 10 minutes and 47 seconds. Weird how that was good.
Nobody had turned yet. That was a babyface battle. That one doesn't count.
Right. So, oh my God, yeah, I saw their face turn live, and I'm trying to think of all the things that have happened in my life since the Tommaso Ciampa turn. So, unsanctioned in New Orleans, Gargano defeats Ciampa 37 minutes. So you got that. Takeover Chicago 2. I did not go to that live, but Tommaso Ciampa defeats Johnny Gargano in 35 minutes and 29 seconds. Takeover Brooklyn 4. Ciampa defeats Gargano in 33 minutes, and now the empty arena. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 4. Yeah, so I was right on the money there with 4 so far. So
and almost 3 hours worth of in-ring.
Yeah.
Between the 4 matches. And the problem is, like we said, all 4 matches were exactly the same. You know.
Yeah, when I saw him pulling up the ring again, I was like, guys, come on, man. You've done this. Like, let's, if you're going to do this shit, like, you gotta, I hate to say it because I don't want these guys to, like, kill themselves out there, but, like, if you're going to keep doing these sort of dramatic, mellow, like, then you have to save this. You can't go, oh, we're going to tear up the ring again. You already did that. We already saw it. We already saw Tommaso Ciampa DDT Gargano in the floorboards. We saw that already. Like, you can't do that again and make it, oh my God, Drake Wuertz is like, oh, come on, you can't do this. You can't do this.
Forget the individual spots. You can't just have this super emotional, fucking emotion fest 4 times. You have it once. You have other matches to build to the big emotional climax of the story. They had big emotional climaxes 4 times.
Right.
That's the problem here. You can't expect people... And each one of these matches lost more and more people along the way. A lot of people hated the first one. I think we kind of liked it. By the second one, we were kind of starting to check out. But by the third one, more people started to check out.
Yeah, and I liked it. I mean, Johnny Gargano is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So we're not that show that's like, Johnny Gargano sucks. I mean, you're going to listen to a lot of shows and they're going to tell you Johnny Gargano sucks because they think he sucks or whatever. I don't think Johnny Gargano sucks. I love Johnny Gargano. This shit sucks, though.
All of this sucks. Yeah, exactly. And now by the 4th one, everybody universally hates it. And everyone acknowledges that the story just dragged on way too fucking long. And yeah, I mean, one guy got hurt in the middle of it all, but it's still, even outside of that, it dragged on just way too long. And it's just, they ran out of ideas. And, does anyone really think it's over? That's the other thing. How can it just end here? I mean, doesn't Tommaso Ciampa now get told he can't have another match until he finally convinces William Regal or whoever else to give him another match? I think that's where we're going. I do. How can you end it like this? With him losing in that fashion? I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, who cares?
But,
who knows? They won't even follow up. They'll just
Yeah. Who fucking cares is the best way to look. It fucking sucked. It was terrible. So that's WWE Cinematic Adventure Hour. Some big picture thoughts about WrestleMania now. So I want to start here because this is interesting. Edge defeats Randy Orton in 37 minutes.
Oh, it finally ended. That's cool. It ended. Awesome.
It did end. It ended while we were recording the show here today. In a horrendous match. Edge seems to be a little mad online about this.
Oh, he is.
I mean, he's not admitting. He's trying to play the old I'm not mad, but he's mad.
I'm not mad, but here, let me go for an entire 5 minutes telling you why I'm not mad.
Now, look, I feel for him. I do. Because, did you watch the doc?
I've watched a little bit of it, and the part I've seen has been pretty good. I want to watch the entire thing, but yeah, I've heard it's fantastic.
So he's a likable guy, and he's easy to root for and all that. And he comes back from this, triple neck fusion surgery or whatever the fuck it was. And the thing happens, and it totally derails this great program he's got going with Randy Orton because now there's no fans, and now WrestleMania is not going to have any fans. So his big return singles match is, already off to a horrible start because now he has to have it with no fans. And no matter what these guys say, no matter how much they go out there and say, we're still putting smiles on people's faces and we're still going out there and making people not think about their lives for a while. Every single one of them was disappointed that WrestleMania happened in front of no fans. Okay, if you're giving them truth serum. So this poor guy comes back, just horrible luck, has to have this big match in front of no fans. Then he goes out there, and the match is, I mean, I won't want to say universally panned, but most people hated this fucking match. And I feel bad for him because he did go out there and work hard. And they did bust their ass, and the work was good and all of that. We talked about this when we reviewed the match behind the paywall. But it's just too long and too repetitive, and it just didn't work. And whether it would have worked in front of fans or not, who knows? I don't think it would have. I think it would have lost the crowd because it was too long and too boring and too repetitive. But at the end of the day, I feel bad for Edge because this is not how this is his big return, and it is a great story, and this is not how he could have envisioned it. And then everybody is shitting on his match. So Do I blame him for being a little defensive? I don't. I kind of just feel bad for the guy. Randy Orton probably doesn't give a shit. Randy Orton cashes his checks and bangs his wife. And, you know, you could tell that he just doesn't take these sort of things to heart the way that other people do. But Edge, I feel bad for him. I really do. And, you know, him saying that Bret Hart called him personally and told him it was a great match because it looked real and all that. I believe that Bret Hart liked the match. I have no doubt in my mind that Bret Hart.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a Bret Hart match right there. You know, and if that's enough to make Edge happy, but you can tell that he's annoyed that the match got some negative reviews. And I'm not dunking on the guy. I feel bad for him. I have some sympathy for him with all this.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. I mean, the problem though is he called out. He's specific when you're saying when he's mad online. If for people that didn't see it, he was on Corey Graves' bullshit podcast, whatever the hell that thing is called. I don't really care. But he was mad that people were criticizing the length of the match, and I get why you'd be upset about that. But he's trying to say, well, it's during a pandemic. I mean, what else do people have to do? And it's like, I get that, but you
can we stop saying that,
right? Like.
Okay, just because it's a pandemic, it's not. You're not immune to criticism if you're putting out bad art.
Right, exactly.
If someone puts out a shitty album during the pandemic, we're allowed to say the album is shitty. If you have a shitty, boring wrestling match, I'm allowed to say your wrestling match stinks. If the next episode of my favorite TV show misses the mark, I'm allowed to fucking complain about it. So I'm so sick of using that as like the shield of criticism. Okay, we're all in the same boat here, and the match fucking stunk. But go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
That's and like that's the part that gets me is like, yeah, I feel for Edge, I feel bad and all that sort of stuff. But bro, there's like a difference. I mean, between the gap of 5 minutes and 45 minutes or whatever, there's somewhere in between there that this match could have been. I don't think anybody would have said if this match was 18 minutes of these guys brawling and then getting in the ring and doing all that. I don't think anybody's criticizing it. It's the, oh my God, this match has gone on too long, coming at the 30-minute mark, and then there's another 15 minutes after that. That's all it is, and that's all anybody's saying. So the idea that like, oh, well, it's during a pandemic, what else do you have to do? You know, just sit back and enjoy it and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, no, dude, like, it sucked. Like you said, the art sucks. Like, I'm allowed to say your art sucks, even if there's a pandemic going on. Like, I'm still allowed to say that it sucked. Like, if people thought that this episode of the Flagship sucks, that's fine. They're well in the rights to say that. We can't say, we're giving you 3 hours of content, all right? So you shut up. Like, no, if it sucked, it sucks. Like, it's fine. We get it. But that's where I kind of maybe lost a little bit of sympathy from him, just a little bit, because, yeah, his idea that, like, well, what else do you have to do is just not working. And that's sort of been the attitude that I think a lot of people have sort of had initially with wrestling in general. And we've talked about it a little bit. We talked about it a few weeks ago. And I think even last week we touched on it a little bit. But I think WWE and maybe wrestlers, maybe all these people are kind of getting a wake-up call that fans aren't just dying to see anything in this. You know, people truly want, they still want good art. They still want to be entertained. They still want stuff that's good. The idea that we'll just show up and people are going to be there in droves and everyone's going to love everything you do because they're just so desperate for something, for new first run content or whatever. Like, that's not the way it's gone. The ratings have not reflected that either. The general perception of these empty arena shows have not shown that either. So I think a lot of the fans and a lot of the companies and a lot of things are getting a wake up call that just existing during a pandemic is not nearly enough. Like, people also still want to be entertained. We're not that desperate yet. You know what I mean? There's still enough for us to do that just the mere existence of your art form isn't enough for us to get excited. So you got to step it up a little bit. You got to do this sort of stuff. And maybe they've learned and whatever. I do feel bad for Edge. I do feel bad because he wanted all this. But again, there's somewhere that match would have sucked if there was a crowd waiting in the arena for them as well. You know?
Yeah.
If there was 80,000 people cheering, it would have still fucking stunk.
Well, they wouldn't have been cheering by the end. I am convinced that match would have died with a crowd.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, 100%.
None of it wasn't. First of all, 99% of it wasn't in front of the crowd. Number one, and who knows if they would have played it that way if there. Maybe that's because there wasn't a crowd that they immediately went to the back. But you know, it was so long and so boring and so repetitive that I think they would have lost the crowd. Did you notice this little bit too? I think they edited the match because he said the final edit was 42 minutes. And what they gave us was 36 minutes and 35 seconds. So there was actually more of this.
Oh, God. Can you imagine?
Unless he was counting like where Orton gives the RKO before the bell and maybe the post-match stuff. You know what? As a wrestler, I bet you he was counting beginning to end.
Yeah, he may have gotten a tape or a link that said, hey, here it is from the first part of the video to all the way to the end. But yeah, it doesn't count the bells. And maybe that's counting the entrances and the after or whatever. So yeah, maybe that's true.
So maybe there wasn't more of it. But yeah, it was dreadful. But I do feel very bad for him. I think that just big picture thoughts. We both enjoyed night one more than we enjoyed night two, because I think night one, all of the matches were snug, hard hitting. A lot of them were kept a little bit shorter and to the point. Night two got off to a good start. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we both thought Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley was the best match of the entire event.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I haven't changed on that either. I still think it is.
So it would be either that or the ladder match for me. And I would give the edge to Flair Ripley. I'd probably go ladder match 2. And then maybe Owens Rollins 3, unless I'm forgetting something. Looking over the matches here. Nah, that's probably the order I'd go. I'm not, Boneyard, Bray. Those aren't even matches to me, so I don't even consider them. Not that I would thought either one of them were better than those 3 matches anyway. But and then the rest of the 2 nights, was a lot of stuff that ranged from forgettable, like Otis and Dolph Ziggler. I thought that was terrible. To just, kind of there and okay. And, there was a lot of stuff that I just slapped the gentleman's 3. I think there was a lot of gentleman's 3. Night 1, I would call, I'd say it was like a good show. I would be okay with calling night 1 a good show. I wouldn't go any harder on the praise. But it was a good little show. Night 2, I would be comfortable saying it was a slightly below average show, because Edge and Orton was just so bad and so long. The Bray Wyatt thing did nothing for me, and everything else outside. And Flair and Ripley was like very good. Mm-hmm. I went notebook on that, and everything else was kind of just there. So I'd say slightly below average on night 2. Let's talk Flair Ripley for a second, because we both agreed in real time. $10 super fan tier if you want to hear 3 hours of this, of WrestleMania breakdown match by match. We both agreed in real time that it was obviously the wrong booking decision, but we weren't going to make a big deal out of it because, again, it's WWE. You can drive yourself nuts breaking down the booking minutia of WWE. It's a waste of fucking time. But Rich, did you see the follow-up on NXT?
I actually have not watched all of NXT yet. So yeah, let me. I have not seen it. So what happened?
Did you hear my Thursday TV reviews?
I have not yet.
Okay, good. So you're coming into this completely blind. I'm going to tell you exactly how they followed this up on NXT, and I want you to tell me whether you think I'm telling the truth or lying. Okay? Here's how they did it.
So I need to decipher if this is true or false, what you're saying.
Yeah, you got to tell me whether I'm bullshitting you or not.
So you're going to give me a line and then tell me, is that true or is that false?
Yeah, all the way through.
Okay, all right, cool. Go ahead. So a little game here. Little game here. All right.
Not much of a game, but okay. So
Charlotte... Make it a game. I need something, Joe. I need games. I need to play stuff. Like I bought a basketball hoop just so I could play basketball in my driveway. I'm dying for a game here, so let's go.
So we both agree that Ripley should have beat Charlotte, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So Charlotte beat her.
True. Ding, ding, ding.
So
all right.
Charlotte beats her. Not only beats her, but beats her clean in the middle. Not only beats her clean in the middle, but submits her.
Yes. Yeah, right.
They don't even have Rhea Ripley pass out to the pain or refuse to tap, or the referee stops it, much to Rhea's chagrin. There's ways to get around that without having her tap out, right? But they didn't choose to do that. They chose to have Rhea Ripley tap and give up against Charlotte Flair, which to me was mistake number 1. They show Charlotte Flair's post-match interview on NXT this week. And she's there with one of the interview robots. I don't remember which one it is. And honestly, as we've discussed, it does not fucking matter. So
Caleb Braxton. We'll go Caleb Braxton. There it is.
Sure, it was Caleb Braxton. It was Dasha fucking...
No, she's not there anymore. Dasha Fuentes isn't there anymore. She's in AEW now. AEW.
Oh, she's the one that went to... So see, they don't fucking matter. It doesn't really make a difference.
Cassie Kelly's making cooking videos or some shit. JoJo Offerman is having Bray Wyatt's children, and Caleb Braxton and Charlie Cruz are still hanging around. So,
all right, it was one of those two. So they're interviewing Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte basically just gives Rhea the big blow off. She says, Rhea Ripley, she was fine, but let's face it, she's no match for the Queen.
Oh, God.
No, this gets worse.
I hope that was false, but that was true.
No, it's true. Oh. Forget the game, because everything I'm telling you is true. So the game's out the window.
Oh, damn it. All right.
The bit didn't work the way I thought it would. So the game
That's fine. Just go. Yeah, go ahead.
So Charlotte basically buries her again in the post-match interview, which is okay for a heel to do, I guess. But maybe you want Charlotte to show some vulnerability, right? Like you want Charlotte to say that Rhea was no match for her, but you can see the cracks and you can see that she's full of shit because she's a heel. No, full on confidence. She's not very good. I took care of her like nothing. That's that. Rich, the next shot, you're not going to believe what they did here. It's going to piss you off because you're a big Ripley fan. She's curled up in a ball on the ground, rocking back and forth like Mankind in 1996.
What?
Okay? We're off to a bad start. Okay? She's curled up in a ball.
False. It never happened.
She's crying and weeping.
Oh, no.
As she's curled up in this ball. She's wiping tears from her eyes, right?
No.
She gives one line and one line only as she looks up to the camera. And I don't want to blow it, so I'm getting my notes out. So you got your picture in the scene,
yes.
Sweat on the brow,
yes.
Tears, weeping, rocking back and forth. And she looks up at the camera and she can barely get out her words. And she goes, and I quote, "She's a lot better than I expected," end quote.
Oh, fuck.
Cut camera away.
Gross. God damn it. It's so bad. What are you doing? Why?
So not only does Charlotte, the heel, think that Rhea Ripley's not good enough or in her class, but Rhea Ripley,
doesn't
the babyface, the up-and-coming star, who the idea is to get her over, doesn't even think that she's in Charlotte's league. Is that just mind-blowing in its fucking obtuseness or not?
What would possess them to do that? Like that, that's all backwards. Like that, Charlotte should be saying that. Charlotte should come out and say, "I'm still the queen. I'm still the champion. But man, Rhea Ripley took me to the absolute limit, or whatever.
She'll never beat me. I'm too good."
Yeah, I'm still the queen, and I'm the champion, and I got the gold right now. But credit to her, she brought me to the absolute edge. But she's not better than me, and she never will be better than me. And Rhea Ripley comes out there and goes, "Don't forget, I took you to the limit. And the next time we fight, I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna win that title from you."
Instead of being curled up in a ball on the floor crying, saying that you're not as good as Charlotte Flair, how about we see Rhea tearing up a room, stomping back and forth?
I should have won that match.
Around.
I had her. That was mine. You know, I had it. That's the
next
way to do
time
that.
It's going to be different. I can't believe this. This was the biggest match of my life. I'm so disappointed in myself.
Right.
Next time it's going to be
coming
different.
back better than ever. Yeah, the next time she sees me, she's going to see a new Rhea Ripley,
Charlotte
a better Rhea
Flair,
Ripley. Yeah.
Next time I get you in the ring, I'm going to tear you to pieces. Where's that? No, curled up in a ball, rocking back and forth, crying. She's better than I expected. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
And that's the babyface, right?
That's the babyface.
Okay, got it.
That's the babyface. That should be Charlotte after Rhea beats her. You know, it's like, God. You know, you can make an argument that Charlotte could have won the match, but you could have handled it in a way where everybody wins.
Right, like we just said right there, where
laid out.
Yeah, where Rhea maybe is getting real close to the ropes, and Charlotte pulls her away from the ropes, and she has no choice but to tap out for the better. She can't let her knee, you know, if I stay in this hold too long, the knee's going to be ravaged or whatever. So fuck it, I'll tap out. And then she comes out the next night and says, you know, you beat me by an inch. If I had gotten the ropes, you wouldn't have beat me, or anything like that. And you know, I tapped out for the betterment of the rest of my career. But yeah, the next time you see me, the next time we fight, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be better than ever, and I'm going to beat your ass. I'm going to win that title.
Why would I ever rally around Rhea Ripley now? She's just
right. She's a geek. Yeah. Oh God, I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to act like that never happened and just keep going.
So we compound on the horrible finish.
Especially her. You know what I mean? Like, not like if that's Candice LeRae cutting that promo. That's kind of Candice's character.
You're
perpetual
right. You know
underdog, like plucky underdog, like
it almost works if it's her. You're right.
It's a 6'3" fucking brick shithouse Rhea Ripley, this star on the rise that looks like $1 million or whatever. I don't want her with the tattoos and the fucking leather sitting in a corner crying.
Yeah.
The fuck?
It's horrible. You can make it. Yeah, you're right. It almost works. It'd still be bad,
It's still
but it almost
terrible,
works
but yeah, Candace, it works. The Kyrie Sane or whatever, it could work. Bailey, those sort of characters, it would absolutely work.
Tegan Knox, you could put a Tegan Knox.
Yeah. Oh, she's great at crying. So
it's like, oh, geez, that's a low blow. My
no,
God.
I'm just saying. No, I'm not being mean. Like, I think she's good at it.
Those tears were real, my friend.
I know, but she's good at. No, I'm not saying because when she got hurt. I'm saying that, but like. It worked, like even in the storyline with Dakota, where she was like close to breaking down at times or whatever, because you buy it. Like she's kind of this plucky underdog and like emotionally gets. I don't want Rhea Ripley feeling any emotions other than anger.
Rich, I'm sorry, but you're canceled. It's too late. These shows are live now.
I like Tegan Knox.
No, you mocked a woman for blowing out her knee twice and showing real emotion, and I'm sorry, but you're canceled. That's just the way it goes.
That's the end of that. So it was good. It was a good run. We got an hour and it's so in. So that was good.
As a man who's been canceled countless times, I can tell you it means absolutely nothing. So you're okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to let's see. So Drew McIntyre, another guy I feel terrible for. He's really trying to handle it the right way. Good for him. He's being positive. He's saying everyone will remember it because of the circumstances. But this man wanted to be out there in front of 60,000 people holding up that title and having his moment.
Oh,
so,
yeah, of course.
Feel bad for him. I've got an interesting angle here for you to ponder. Was this sort of a no-lose situation for master manipulator Paul Heyman in that he talks Brock into putting over Drew McIntyre strong? And Brock's a guy who will do business, especially if Paul Heyman gets in his ear and tells him it's good business to do. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, of course.
So Heyman convinces Brock, we're going to do because this was a strong job. I mean, McIntyre was put over very strong in this match. I think we'd all agree on that as well. But Heyman can't really lose here, right? Because if McIntyre flops, which I believe he will, and I believe Heyman thinks he will as well, then it's like Heyman can just say, well, bad timing and circumstances, the COVID-19 really cut the legs off of Drew McIntyre. There's only one thing to do, and that's go back to the Beast Brock Lesnar, right? But if Drew McIntyre works out, Paul Heyman's booking this shit, and he's in charge of the brand, and he pushed for it.
Right. He could say, I told Brock that this would be the best opportunity to become, for Drew to become a star and all that sort of, yeah.
And look at this. It's worked out. This guy's this is like a no-lose situation for Paul Heyman, right?
He's good at what he does.
Is this a Heyman special we just witnessed here?
I think so. He's a great wrestling mind, especially when he comes out ahead. I mean, he's the best.
Yeah. I think that the big winner here, no matter what, is Paul Heyman. So, Raw ratings tumbling, and, the thing happens at just the right time for him in that respect, too, because who the fuck cares about ratings right now, right? But that shit was free-falling long before the thing. To be fair, Heyman's objective was to improve the younger demos and the female demos. And both of those things were showing signs of improving while the total viewership was starting to tumble. Yeah. But his objective that he was given was, we have a young people problem. We have a female viewer problem. We need to fix these things. And he hyper laser focused on those things. And those things were starting to turn around, despite the fact that in the bigger picture, the total number, it's almost that kind of thing where when you do spring cleaning in your house, right? You kind of have to make a bigger mess to clean, right? You ever clean a room and you have to make it a bigger mess before
you got to tear it down to build it back up, for sure.
And that's almost kind of what we were seeing, but now with the thing, that's all thrown out. But in this scenario, it's like Paul Heyman can't lose because, I mean, he picked McIntyre, but if McIntyre doesn't work out, he could just blame the thing, and they just go right back to Brock. And he probably told Brock the same thing. He's like, probably telling Brock, look, man, just be patient.
Yeah, go to your farm, throw up some, chase some elk or whatever the fuck you do in your free time, and we'll call you back. Yeah, you'll get another job.
Chase an elk. So, Braun Strowman, who wasn't even booked for the show, comes out of the show as the Universal Champion. None of this matters, obviously. But I think that's interesting. Like, he wasn't even booked for the show. Roman was booked for the show. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think, Rich Craich, that there's a chance that Vince McMahon thinks that Roman Reigns is a pussy for not coming to WrestleMania? Remember, they made that last-ditch effort to try to get him there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he thinks Roman is some kind of, like, pussy for not showing up for the show? And do you think this is going to like change his mindset on Roman?
Right now it's hard to say, but I would not be surprised if it was true. And I think because Vince is a guy we've heard from everybody that's ever worked with him, and that like when you're in his, it's very hard to get in his good graces, but when you're in his good graces, it takes a lot to not be in his good graces. But the second you're not in his good graces anymore, you're fucking dead to him. I mean, Drew McIntyre is a great example of that. Drew McIntyre was like a guy that he saw and said, "Ha." They talk about it in the Drew McIntyre 24/7 or whatever the hell that thing was, where Vince fucking loved this dude. We heard about it at the time. We knew about it at the time that Vince was like fell in love with this guy and said, "This is our next guy. This guy's it." And he wanted like hell for this guy to be the biggest star in his company. And when he didn't do it, when he wasn't able to kind of achieve that level for him, Vince he was done with him. And go throw him off and you're done. And I'm not saying that that's happened with Roman. I don't know quite yet. I have no idea. But given past history, given sort of what we've seen from Vince, you bring up a very good point. I would not be surprised if he looked around and said, well, God damn it, we had 50 other guys that came here and busted their ass and sacrificed for the greater good, and you didn't. And you would. And like, again, I'm not saying that I don't agree with Vince McMahon on there. I think a man who recently survived leukemia probably shouldn't be there because he's very immunocompromised, all that sort of stuff. So Roman Reigns is all in the right to not do this. And well in his right to say, you know what, this isn't a really good idea, guys. It should never have even come to that. It should never have been a decision for Roman Reigns. It should have been the doctors in WWE should have said, oh, no way, this guy cannot show up on the show. There's no way we can do this. So that's what I'm not taking Vince's side here, but you bring up a very interesting point, and I cannot wait to see what the follow-up is. And really, I mean, it's going to become a time where Reigns might be out of sight, out of mind for a while here. Because when is he going to be able to come back, realistically? I mean, until we're back to normal, you really can't justify having Roman Reigns on your show in any way, shape, or form other than a pre-tape that he does in his own house. Like, he needs to not be around there. He needs to be nowhere near anything right now, given what he went through over the last year or whatever. So he might become an out of sight, out of mind type guy where Vince might just say, you know what, fuck it. This is a guy who we've suspended before for PEDs. We've suspended him for this. I tried to push him like hell. I wanted him to be my next guy. It never worked. He never latched on. It never attached. There's enough working in his favor where Vince may have finally just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm done. I'm fascinated by that. I'm glad you brought that up. I had not thought of that before.
Strowman wasn't even on the show. He wasn't going to be on the show. Now he's the champ. But I think that's more, they had this deal with Goldberg and it ended here. So they had to get the title off him, right? Especially with everything going on. You got to convince Goldberg to come back down to the Performance Center.
Yeah, no. Whoever was in that match was going to beat Goldberg and win the title. So
right. So they had Strowman on standby. I guess he was the best option. I mean, you had Big Show, who McIntyre beat moments later.
I love this company. I fucking love this company so much. They can't. They even when you think that they're going to change. Oh, they're going to change, and now they're going to do the Boneyard match for every single match. They've decided the art form of pro wrestling has changed. They book a new champion, and the first thing Vince McMahon does is trips over himself to get him to beat the goddamn Big Show. Because give me Kane. Kane's not available. Well, God damn it, give me the Big Show.
Right.
I love it. He just will never change. Everybody's waiting for the grand moment where WWE changed the entire art form. But they'll never will. A champion won, and they had the fucking Big Show go out there because he got to beat the monster. I love it.
And it wouldn't have been, see, that's my point. This was a trickle-down effect, right? No Roman. So Strowman, I think, would have had that Big Show spot. I think Drew would have been out there cutting his interview. Braun!
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So then it would have been Braun. But then Braun had to take Roman's spot. And then, because where the fuck has Big Show been? I mean, he's not even in the picture, right? So I think Big Show took Strowman's spot. It wouldn't make sense not to have Strowman not on the show at all, right? He's been in the mix. So that was very, dubious to me, or conspicuous, whatever the right word is, that Strowman wasn't even booked. Then all of a sudden, Big Show is showing up to challenge Drew McIntyre? I don't know. I think that was meant to be Strowman.
I like it. Yeah, that's it's very... Yeah, it's a weird... It's all, yeah, the weird trickle-down effect, and I just have, no feel for... And I guess it's right that nobody should really have any feel. I mean, we have no idea what they're doing. I mean, they are still going on. They're still acting like it's kind of business as usual for them. At some point, that's going to have to stop, and we're going to talk about it in Japan as well. A lot of companies that have sort of said, hey, we're going to keep going, we're going to keep doing this, eventually that's going to have to stop. I think AEW now said that they have, until X amount of days, and then they're done. I'm so fascinated to see if WWE is just going to continue to push on. We saw UFC this past week try to do everything that they wanted to do, and which was incredible, by the way. Like the most ridiculous thing ever. I was ready, Joe. This almost turned into a UFC podcast. If they did island death matches every single week, I am all in on that. It is so absurd and so ridiculous, and anybody that agrees to do that is so ridiculous as well that like I would have let go of any sort of like you know what, the global medical and the global pandemic. I would have just been like, fuck yeah, island death matches, let's go. Like everybody agreed to fly to this random fucking island and fight one another, so I'm in. But even that is no longer. So I mean, at some point WWE, I don't know what is their contingency plan. Do they have a plan?
No.
It's so strange. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna tape this weekend for the next 2 weeks. I'm like,
taping.
what are you doing? Like you should have been. This needs to be way buttoned up already. You gotta know what the hell you're doing already, guys.
No. They're taping today. As we record this, they're taping Friday, and they're doing 3 weeks worth. They're going right up to Money in the Bank.
It's bizarre, man. Like, what are you doing?
They might even be doing. What are they going to do? They might just tape Money in the Bank too. See, here's the thing. They might not. See, here's the thing. They're taping Raw, SmackDown, and then they're taping NXT separately. I think was the deal. Let me look at my notes.
Right. Well, because NXT is still kind of going from Full Sail and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Hold on. Here it is. It's okay. So today, Friday the 10th, depending when people listen to this, they're doing 1 full week at the PC. They're doing 3 Raws and 3 SmackDowns. And then Meltzer reported that NXT is going to be at Full Sail, and they're taping multiple shows at Full Sail. So they're full steam ahead right now. And here's the thing too. They keep doing 205 Live too. They keep doing 205 Live. They keep taping. I don't know if they're doing Main Event. That I can't.
I haven't seen words tweeting out about the A show lately, so I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with the A show.
Now, here's what's interesting. NXT UK. This week they did
the rise of NXT UK.
Yeah, they just did a highlight show, right, to buy themselves some time. But they've only got 6 matches left in the can, which gives them like 2. That's like 2 shows,
right?
So, do you think they're going to try to piece together an NXT UK this week? Some kind of taping for NXT UK. And just do like Pete Dunne versus a jobber over and over and over. Right. Is he even in Florida?
No, I don't think he is. No, I think he's still in the UK, weirdly.
So NXT UK for the next 6 months is going to be Cassius Ohno versus like Isaiah Swerve Scott just over and over. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. But yeah. So no, they're not stopping. And they fly enough under the radar. See, UFC got told. See, ESPN and UFC's overlords stepped in. Their broadcast overlords stepped in and said, look, you're not taking us down with you. So we're not going to air your pay-per-view. And then he had to back down and not do the show because it became too big of a news story. You know, even though it's on tribal land, the state of California was annoyed and ESPN and Disney didn't want to go down with that ship. There's no ship for Vince to take down with him. I mean, who's going to – because
it'd have to be the state of Florida, but it would have to be the state of Florida. But given, you know, what's going on over the last month, I don't think the state of Florida is going to be the one leading that charge. So, yeah, that's probably not happening.
Yeah, Florida – is one of the most, you know, they've been like the last to shut down. I don't even think they are shut down.
No, they're not. I mean, yeah, they're like partially shut down, but you can still go to church and like you can do. There's like a bunch of weird exceptions that it's like, it's not quite.
Well, they chased AEW out. They chased AEW to Georgia.
That's true.
But it's like McMahon is just going to thumb his nose until like someone says you're going to jail if you do this.
Right, there'd have to be literally armed guards in front of the building to let him not in. Yeah.
So he's going to keep filming footage. And you know, it doesn't seem like the wrestlers, if there was some grumbling some weeks ago, but I don't hear any grumbling anymore. It seems like the wrestlers are all on board. They've all been brainwashed by the Dark Order to say, we're here to put smiles on people's faces and give people an escape. Because that's all you hear from these people now. So I think they really nipped that in the bud if there was any grumbling. But a lot of them probably want to get out of the house and go fucking wrestle anyway. Honestly, I can't blame them. I could see why some of these people would be bored and they want to keep going to work. I mean, it's not wise, but a lot of these are like people in their fucking 20s, who they're not thinking in that way, and I can kind of understand it. I don't think you have to drag a lot of them kicking and screaming. So if he's going to keep going, I think his employees are going to keep showing up, right. Or his not employees, whatever you want to call them. His independent contractors. Yes, they will independently contract to the Performance Center every few weeks until he tells them not to. So, well, Dash Wilder and Bald Revival and Revival with hair. It's Dash. What's the other guy's name?
Dash Wilder and
Scott Dawson.
Yes, there you go.
They are no longer independent contractors as we transition to the Revival, finally getting their release from WWE. And as many reporters have confirmed now, can't name one specifically because they've all pretty much confirmed it, whether it's Ryan Satin or Sean Ross Sapp as of the time of this show. They're free and clear right now. They're not one of those 90-day deals. Okay, so now what does that mean? It's not like they can go work anywhere right now, but technically they are free and clear to do as they please. Here's something that's a little confusing that people don't understand, though. If you get the 90-day non-compete, right, that they give a lot of people when they release them, that doesn't prevent you from working somewhere else or signing another contract. But if you do go work somewhere else or sign another contract, you're just forfeiting that 90 days of pay. Okay, that's, I think, something a lot of people don't understand about the WWE non-compete, the 90-day non-compete. But that doesn't even apply to this situation. It's kind of irrelevant here. They are free and clear immediately. And even the verbiage on the tweet that WWE sent out kind of suggested that this was an immediate release. So the Revival finally get what they want.
Yeah, and this feels like doesn't this feel like the saga went? When did the saga even begin? Like, when did this
15 months.
Jesus
15
Christ.
Months. They have been asking for their release for 15 months. Now, listen, it got a little annoying and tedious at times. There's no question about that. But they just wanted to keep stirring the pot. Give them credit. Okay, we say to all these other people who take the money and then complain that what can they do, Rich?
Eat shit.
Eat shit. These two guys complained, didn't take the money, and in fact, turned down the money, turned down 7 figures each at various points in time, stuck to their guns, and got their release. They were going to wait it out. Now, one of them was going to be under contract a little longer than the other because of the injury clause and whatnot, but these motherfuckers, give them credit. They got some balls. They're betting on themselves, if you want to use whatever cliche you want to use. They were going to let those contracts run out, but WWE cuts them loose a little early. Not like it matters with the current, It's funny how they didn't
go
cut
ahead.
loose.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think this is would this have occurred if we didn't have coronavirus, or would they give them on the 90-day?
Coronavirus aside, would this have occurred if Mid-South Tony wasn't finished taping?
That's what I mean. Yeah. There's no way.
That's the way you got to look at it. Mid-South Tony wrapped up his taping last week, and they're not doing another round of taping until they figure out what they're going to do for Double or Nothing. They're all in the can. All their storylines are set. All their matches are in the can. So they didn't cut them until those guys, number one, were finished taping, so they couldn't show up on Dynamite next week, hypothetically. The other thing is, Dawson, which is the one with the hair?
The hair is Wilder.
Oh, that's Wilder.
That's
obviously.
Wilder,
We're
yes.
professionals. We do a weekly 3-hour podcast on pro wrestling.
Let me make sure. I think that's true. Yes. Wilder's the hair guy, and Dawson's the no hair guy.
So Revival Hair was on the Edge doc and played a pretty big role too. So that could add something to do with it too, where they're like, all right, let's not get rid of these guys until the Edge doc airs.
Right, yeah, I do wonder, and people brought that up too, and I wonder as well if, because one of the guys helped Edge get ready and all that sort of stuff, I do wonder if maybe Edge kind of puts a word in and said, you know what, let these guys, come on, these guys are good, they helped me out, let them go, man. I wonder if that timing, because you have the timing of you wanted the doc to end and air and all that sort of stuff. I also do wonder too if Edge put in a good word and just said, you know what, these guys helped me, they didn't have to, let's let them go. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know if he has that sort of cachet with Vince, but maybe.
I think it may be a combination of all those things. I mean, you don't want them to be able to go, because they would have shown up at that AEW taping. So now that's out the window. At this point, you don't have to worry about them being on Dynamite until when's Double or Nothing? May
23rd, I want to say, but let me double check that to be sure. But yeah, somewhere, yeah, mid-May or whatnot. I was going to talk about that a little bit earlier too, because that not looking like it's going to happen.
Well, we can fold it in because
May 23rd.
MGM Grand is shut down, and it's not going to be there. But just assuming that Big Tone buys himself an island Dana White style or finds another building somewhere to run his pay-per-view, the earliest you can potentially see them is then because everything else is taped. Although with the way AEW does things creatively, is there a chance that these two guys film something?
I was going to say, like, you can say whatever, but yeah, they could just do a pre-tape and throw that right into AEW and say, hey, we're the Revival and we're coming. But I don't love that either. I think you might want to just hold them off until this point.
Even if it's just a vignette for them to introduce themselves, give their new names, challenge the Bucks, whatever you're going to do with them.
I kind of like them running out and beating up the Bucks on Double or Nothing, you know? But I guess if there's no fans, this is the weird thing. Like, debuting people with no fans is so weird. And, like, the Brody Lee one, I think they did it okay, but, obviously it was disappointing him that he wasn't in front of, his hometown crowd, or he wasn't in front of Rochester, New York, or whatever. Matt Hardy, whatever. Like, I think that probably would have been better with fans and whatnot. But, like, the idea that I have of the Revival is, like, how cool would it be they just come through the crowd and beat up the Bucks or whatever, and they're here and they've arrived. And that's not going to work. It's going to be like, oh, that's these guys, it's just gonna be so weird and so clunky. So maybe at that point you should just do a pre-tape and say, hi, we're the Revival, or we're whatever the fuck we're gonna be. Here's our new name, and we're here, and we're coming for the Bucks or whatever. Maybe just drop the pretense, drop all the bullshit. Everybody kind of knows what the deal is with them. Just go ahead and do it.
That's what I just said.
No, I'm saying, in my head, I'm saying you might be right. Maybe you're right. So,
did you watch Being the Elite this week?
I did not watch Being the Elite this week. No.
Listen, I'm starved for content. Okay,
I'm too busy watching Big Japan. So.
You should probably watch the new Being the Elite. They've been doing this storyline where Nick O. Jackson, not Matto, but Nick O. Jackson, he suffered the head injury when they closed the. Okay, so he's rehabbing from the injury, and what the Bucks have done is they've built a wrestling ring on like a tennis court of the development they live in or whatever the fuck, right? And they've been doing like these training segments on Being the Elite where Matt and Nick get in there and arm drag each other and shit like that, right? And then Nick is always like, I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm 80%. Like, the running gag is the percentage keeps going up.
Uh-huh.
He's like, he's 69% one week, then he's 80%. Oh, I'm sorry, they don't work blue. So he's like 62% one week, then he's like 80%, mm-hmm. Right? They don't work blue. It's true.
They don't. No, they're pretty good at it, actually.
Christian men, they respect the God. So they're big time into the Jesus, Rich. So they don't work blue. But the point here is they've got the wrestling ring on the tennis court there. And this week on Being the Elite, they wrestled a match against two local competitors. And I've never heard of either of these men. And they went out there and basically had a 4-star fucking match on Being the Elite. I mean, it's the fucking Bucks. They could have a 4-star match with me and you. But the point here is, then they shot an angle with the two local jobbers who were disappointed. Now they're going to wrestle SCU next week. So they're like doing matches on Being the Elite now.
Got it. Yeah, okay.
On this wrestling ring outside of the Bucks' house, okay? My point here, could you sneak the Revival in that way? Can they get out to California and maybe get involved on Being the Elite somehow? You got the ring. You're doing these matches. I'm not saying you give away the match. That'd be incredibly stupid. But do Dash and Dawson sneak attack the Bucks, or could you see something in that direction?
Yeah, it's all just so weird because I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea where they live. I think they're like North Carolina based. Yeah, they're Carolina based.
They'd have to drive out there.
Yeah, it's a long drive. But I guess you got nothing else to do.
Listen, you get a cheap flight nowadays.
You could, yeah. Flights are pretty affordable. As long as you don't want to stay anywhere or do anything, you can get to another town pretty easily. So.
Yeah.
I've considered driving like 11 hours. Who the fuck cares? What are you going to do? Who cares? I'll just stare out the window.
Isolated. You're in a car. You're not bothering anybody.
Right. I thought of like one time when Michelle was off, next weekend, and I'm like, I would just fucking drive to like Montana or some shit if you want. Like, what are we going to do? We're not doing anything anyway.
I don't think that's beyond the pale. I think you're allowed to drive around. What's the problem with that? Right. You're not endangering anyone driving around. But yeah, so there's a lot of different ways they can go. What about the idea that we're all just assuming they're going to pop up in AEW? Don't you think it would be kind of cool if they did one NWA taping?
Yeah, that's one that I like a lot because people brought up like the New Japan, and I don't really want to see them in New Japan whatsoever.
I don't feel like they're a fit.
No, that kind of stinks. I know people just like immediately want everybody in New Japan, everybody that's good in New Japan, but like I don't like it. For whatever reason, it's weird, it's clunky. I don't think New Japan needs them. Obviously, now it's not a great time to debut in New Japan because I don't think New Japan's going to run for quite a while as well. So,
well, yeah, this is all working under the assumption that these companies are eventually going to run.
Right. But let's say that April 30th, everything's good, the sun shines again, we're all back to going to normal or whatever. I don't like the revival in New Japan even in that case. I don't know. Like to me, that does nothing for me.
Do you? Okay, if the revival showed up and challenged Roppongi 3K for the titles, they are the champs, right? I forget. It's been so long. They are. They won them at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So would I be annoyed at a little 3-match series between those two teams trading the titles? No, I'm not going to tell you I don't want to see that. But do they feel like a fit to me? They don't. So I agree with you. Like it's kind of everyone's first instinct whenever there's a wrestler available. Oh, they should go to New Japan. Remember people said Dolph Ziggler should go to New Japan?
Right.
And I'm like, it might work, but it doesn't feel like a fit. Like Dolph Ziggler is going to get in there with Hiroki Goto. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's. But I think before they, sign something and lock themselves into AEW, have a little fun. Do an NWA taping where they would fit in like a fucking glove and get themselves over further before they go to AEW.
Right, and that actually plays up a little bit of my scenario too, where like if they just don't do anything and everybody knows they're going to AEW and then they come out through the crowd and they beat up the Bucks, it's like, all right, whatever. But if they start showing up in a few different random places, they do your one random ROH taping, your NWA tapings, little stuff like that, and you start to think, maybe they are going to AEW. I kept thinking they were going to AEW, but they're not. And maybe there's little hints into Being the Elite where they talk about it, and then all out of nowhere, boom, they just come out. They're from the crowd, or they come out and do that sort of stuff. I think that would be a really cool way to play it, and it'd be like you said, a way for them to have a little fun, feel like they can spread their wings a little bit for a month. But we all know deep down that they're going to go to AEW eventually. It just maybe go along the way, maybe do some other stops or do a few other things to have a little bit of fun before it happens.
Don't you think those two dudes would love to go down to the NWA, work a 2-day taping, do 3 matches, win the titles, defend the titles, lose the titles? They hold them for like 9 weeks because it takes like 9 weeks to air all the
right
shit. Right. So it's like it's 2 days of work for a 9-week run in the company. And don't you think they would love to say that they're former NWA World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, those two guys? And wouldn't it just add to their aura coming into AEW? If I'm Tony Khan, I'm not so sure I don't call Dave Lagana.
Yeah.
And say,
well, I mean, I think the story works better if they pop up somewhere else to kind of take you off the scent a little bit of like, oh,
yes, that too, absolutely. It knocks you off the scent, and it just adds to their aura. And you could even have them cut promos on the Bucks in the NWA. We're the best tag team in the world, and then start. And when you're running off the NWA teams, throw the Bucks in there. We're here to prove we're the best tag team in the world, and we don't care if it's the Rock and Roll Express. We don't care if it's the Young Bucks. We don't care if you just throw it in there.
Right.
We're doing a lot of booking here.
We are. This is the booking show. But hey, if all these assholes aren't going to do it, then we're going to have to. So.
Okay, so I mean that sounds like a great and that just works to AEW's advantage anyway. It kind of builds them up to the right kind of fans. It gets them going. They could say they're former tag team, NWA World Tag Team Champions. Those guys probably would pop for that. It works for the NWA because, they were losing some momentum before all this happened. Forget it now. They haven't aired TV in 4 weeks. So it's like that'd be a great, lightning bolt for them.
And by the way, we read on the money, they started just airing old Houston stuff, which we said was going to happen. So, got to start listening to us a little bit. We know what we're talking about here.
If you're enjoying the old Houston stuff, I would say you're welcome, is all I would have to say to that. So we got it done, Rich. We mentioned it, and we talked it into existence. How about that? But yeah, I would like to see them do, a little run here. That'd be the perfect spot, though, honestly. It'd be a better spot for them than Ring of Honor, I think. Although there's people they could have a match with the Briscoes in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in that in ROH as well.
But ultimately, they've been shooting this angle with the Bucks for 15 months now. So, but we'll see what happens with those guys, and I guess eventually we'll see what happens with those guys once we're allowed to have some matches somewhere again. What else? We got anything else? WWE? Did we cover it all?
I think we got it all. I think we do need to talk a little bit about the XFL before we move fully into
the XFL.
Japan
that was
here.
about.
So the announcement came a little bit before we started recording. So actually, pretty good stuff. Pretty good timing for us. ESPN reporter Field Yates said the XFL has laid off all of its employees and all operations have been suspended. It's from F4, it's 401mania.com, by the way. I'm reading their report here. This comes after the XFL prematurely ended its inaugural season last month due to the COVID pandemic. And some of its players signed with the NFL. Another report from the call suggests that the words thrown around were, quote, shut down. The XFL will pay all of their employees through Sunday. There's no word on when or if it will resume operations.
Okay, but they're keeping a skeleton crew of the top-level executives.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon has already earmarked enough money to last multiple years until it's time for a new television contract to be negotiated. So a lot of people are taking this as the XFL is folding today, but there's no reason for them to fold. They can bring these people back when the world gets back to normal. This doesn't strike me as anything other than what a lot of companies are doing right now. If they were folding up shop, they'd announce it as such, and they would have cut the top executives as well and sent them along their way. They haven't done that. And the money's already essentially spent. He already invested, when I say he, Vince, already earmarked the money and has invested it and is already conceding that he's going to lose this money for X amount of years. And I think it's 3 total years.
Right.
Or was it was either 2 years or 3 years?
I thought it was 3. I thought 3 was the time, but yeah, we can.
Yeah. So it's like, what would be the point? You wait it out. And if they're able to get going again after next year's Super Bowl, you bring everybody back and roll out season 2. They let the players go weeks ago. They told the players you're free to sign with NFL teams. So they're not, that was already done. So I think people are kind of reading into this more than they should be.
Yeah, I think the one thing as far as what the read that I have, and SportsCenter had a tweet out here that I think maybe made people kind of go in the direction that they're going. Is it says, breaking the XFL suspended operations Friday morning and laid off nearly all of its staff. The league currently has no plans to return in 2021. The way I read that, and maybe you read it differently, maybe other people read it, the league having no plans to return in 2021 doesn't mean the league doesn't want to return in 2021, but they literally have no plan to do so, which is different than we're closing up shop and it's all over.
Well, if I'm Vince, I do close up shop because to me, this is his way out.
Yeah. Oh no, he needs to be out of this. This thing is done. Go away. It's over. There's no point in running this thing again.
And with the damage that all of this is doing to his primary business, and when I say all of this, I'm talking about the thing, that money that you've earmarked to lose for the XFL, you can, reinvest that into WWE and close up Alpha Entertainment and all that. This is his out. This is a great opportunity for him to escape out the back door.
Right, to not lose money for 3 years. Like, and like we said, the idea was, hey, we're going to eat shit for 3 years, and then hopefully someone's going to say, you know what, fuck it, here's $500 million, give us games for ESPN or whatever. That was the goal. The goal was eat shit for 3 years, and then hopefully someone has a big old sack of money to give you for live sports. Who knows what's going to happen now. There's a great opportunity for Vince to just say, you know what, fuck it, we're done. Good, great. Or someone to say, hey, his accountant to say, Vince, now's a great time to just cut bait and take those 2 years of losses and put them back in your pocket and invest them in something else. So if he's smart, he'll just cut bait altogether. But
so who'd you say saying that they're not running?
SportsCenter says the SportsCenter tweet says there's no current plans to run in 2021.
So ESPN is basically saying that they're shutting down.
Yes, and they're saying that the word was shut down was used, but there's a difference between suspending operations and folding. When they say the XFL is folded, that's done. All the executives are gone. All the money's done.
Right.
The end. That's the end of the XFL. That's not what they're saying yet. But maybe it's let's all sit down. Let's think about it. Let's see if it's even worth it. And then in a week, they're going to fold.
I think this is a perfect escape hatch for Vince. I mean, this is just handed to him on a silver platter to wiggle out of this thing. But yeah, this verbiage I'm not real comfortable with right now, because if they were just shutting it down point blank, that would be the story. That's not what they're saying here. No. And it sounds to me, and you're reading it and I'm not, but it sounds to me like ESPN is saying that they are hearing from the inside that people are saying it's shutting down, but that's not what they've announced.
Right. The XFL maybe officially didn't announce that, but like, yeah, the person said that the word in the meeting was shut down, but that's not like the press release isn't saying shut down.
Right. So
the
they're
press
done.
release is suspending operations or whatever.
They're finished then.
Yeah, they're not coming back from this. There's no way.
Nor should they.
No.
Nor should it have ever started to begin with. I mean, let's be honest. This wasn't going to work. They were going to, the rating, look, this was going to do this, the shit ratings it was doing by what'd they get to week 5 this year? And it didn't completely fall off the table, but it wasn't doing great numbers. 2 years on, this wasn't going to be, they weren't going to get a big time TV contract for this. So this worked out for Vince. I'm sure that's the way he sees it. So, sure sounds like, why would you even fuck around and delay? Why not?
Yeah, I don't know.
Kill it dead right now. Is he just that stubborn?
I don't know if maybe he's stubborn or maybe there's some weird contract thing. Like, God only knows what. I mean, this guy, he's such a weirdo that who the fuck knows, man? You know what I mean? Like, who fucking knows what his plan is or what his idea is here? But I mean, there's enough smart-ish people in that room to lead me to believe that like this can't just be a Vince McMahon crazy idea, but he's the money man. So it's like, all right, if he wants to, suspend operations but not fold, then okay, we'll do it. But we can't afford any of these employees, or we can't afford anybody anymore. So I don't know. Yeah, there's no coming back from this. I mean, it took so long to build the infrastructure of this, and they just basically destroy that infrastructure in a day. So it's like, there's no way. You're not coming back. You're not rehiring all these people. You're not getting everybody, salaried up again. It's going to be impossible to try to get this back.
Well, if you're shutting down for 2021, then you're done, because you're not going to shut down. You're not going to run half a season and then cancel a season and a half and then come back in 2022, because any kind of momentum you had or anything else is gone. And who knows what. And this has nothing to do with the virus, but who knows what the TV landscape of the world or the sporting world is even going to look like in 2022 at this point. Then you factor in everything going on with the thing. So if they're going to shut down 2021, it must just be some kind of legal reason why they're not saying they're shutting down.
There's got to be some weird contract or some weird agreement that they made with somebody. It's probably the same thing with the WrestleMania thing, where Vince doesn't want. Vince wants somebody else to fucking probably lay down, because he's not going to lay down. Who knows what it is? ESPN or something has some contract in there where they're still paying him for. Who the hell knows? Who the fuck knows with Vince McMahon? But yeah,
this works for him from two perspectives. Number one, he can get out of this and save 2 more years worth of losses and reallocate that money, close down Alpha Entertainment, all of that shit. Number two, he can blame the thing for why it failed.
Right. And
he doesn't have to. Yeah. I mean, because it was clear it wasn't going to work, or becoming clear that it wasn't going to work beyond the 3 years. But now he has a scapegoat.
Yeah. Well, we did everything we wanted to do and we had some momentum, but God damn it, the coronavirus.
And maybe that makes him feel good. Maybe he can now go to his grave with that itch now scratched, if he can convince himself that this is why it didn't work out.
Right.
So, because this was all just him trying to scratch an itch from the failure the first time. So maybe he's satisfied with blaming the thing, and we never have to deal with the XFL again. I didn't hate the XFL.
No, it's fine. I enjoyed it.
I can't sit here and tell you it was appointment viewing. I didn't make sure I was home on Saturdays and Sundays to watch the XFL. I'm flipping channels on a Saturday and I got nothing going on. Maybe I'd leave it on for a quarter. But look, it's like we said from the beginning. The most impact it was going to have is whatever ideas the NFL stole from it. So we'll see what the NFL does moving forward. They actually incorporated a few of the XFL ideas into the Pro Bowl and dipped their toes in there. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people remember, because that's the day Kobe died and nobody bothered watching the Pro Bowl or paying attention to it. But they did a couple of the XFL ideas in the Pro Bowl, or dabbled with them. And we'll see, because they stole ideas from the XFL the first time, and everyone's pointing to the kickoff. The kickoff idea that XFL came up with, which limits the concussions and whatnot, but keeps the kickoff as part of the game.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how I feel about that one. I could go either way on it. It seems a little too unconventional for me, but I prefer it to eliminating the kickoff. I don't like the idea of eliminating the kickoff from the game, because I think special teams are a part of the game, and I don't like the idea of increasingly eliminating them. So if that's the last ditch effort to keep kickoffs around, I would prefer that they use the XFL's idea just to say you still have the kickoffs. But, some of the other ideas we'll see. I don't think the NFL is ever going to go to 3-point conversions.
No. Nor do I think they're going to have you listen into the rules coordinator talking about the rules as it's going on. Like, I think that
one, I like that one.
I like it too, but I don't think the NFL is ever going to be.
You don't think they're going to pull back their window?
Not that much. They might mic up the players a little bit to give you generic sound bites. They might mic up the coaches and give you generic sound bites. They kind of do that now already. Maybe they'd open that up a little bit more, but there's no way they're going to have the main guy that's calling the rules thing with so much money on the line and so much. I don't think they're going to pull the curtain back that much.
Well, did you see what the one rules guy blew it bad? Did you see that?
Yeah, right.
They took a knee on 4th down. The team leading took a knee on 4th down in a 1-score game. Since it was a change of possession, the clock should have stopped, and the other team should have got the ball back with whatever it was. I think it was 2 or 3 seconds left when the guy took a knee. But the referees kept the clock moving. That should have been changed by the review guy, and he didn't change it. And he said, well, since the game ended, technically I can't change it now. And the XFL fired that guy. They didn't fire him. They, quote-unquote, reassigned him to another position, which basically means they fired him. And so that is a perfect scenario of what you're talking about. The NFL, I don't think they want to open that curtain for everybody.
Especially with millions of dollars on the line on any given day. Right. I don't think that they're going to do that. The NFL always tiptoes around the they don't want to say out and out that we don't do this because of gambling or we do this because of gambling, but a lot of the decisions that are made in the NFL are because of gambling.
Oh my God, Rich, the NCAA for basketball, I don't know if you saw this. They changed the rule last year where any buzzer beater at the end of a game, even if it's inconsequential, even if it's a 20-point game, all buzzer beaters are subject to official review.
Right, which is
why
so
else
ridiculous.
would you do that?
Yeah, if Iona hits a game, throws a prayer in and they make it, and they're losing by 25 to fucking whoever. It's the referees sometimes go, yeah, I have 3 points. Who cares? But no. Let's make sure that those 3 points actually matter. Yeah, there's a clear reason for that. So,
and on the press release, it said, "In the interest of accurate statistics."
Of course, yes.
From now on, we'll be reviewing all end-of-game heaves when you know damn well it's the fucking totals and it's the point spreads.
The NFL having their injury report thing that they had a few years ago where teams were getting fined if you didn't give an accurate injury report with X amount of time before the game. Just for the people at home.
Yes, just in the interest of the viewer.
Right.
We need to know.
Is the Patriots running back going to play in this game? No, he's not. Okay, good.
Questionable. Right. I think they got rid of probable, right? Which is the one they got rid of?
because whoever it was, whatever one was still there, the Patriots just put every one of their players on the probable list.
Yeah,
Belichick, which I appreciated. Yeah. I appreciated that 53 dudes were probable every game. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, because it used to be probable, questionable, doubtful, and out. And then they changed it. They got rid of one of them because, Belichick primarily, but other coaches were just bullshitting on that thing. No, what Belichick was doing, he got mad because the league kept staying on his ass about it. So then he put his whole roster on it every week.
Right, yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, every week everybody was on the probable list.
Right. So
you couldn't actually know who was probable because he put everything, and they had to tell him.
He put the whole team.
Bill, we're not doing this because we give a shit. We're doing it because the gamblers. So,
Right. So from his perspective, it was like, hey, look, no one's 100% healthy, so everybody's probable.
Right.
Yeah. Because he got annoyed because they felt because other coaches thought he was fucking with. Yeah. So it always comes down to gambling. But fuck the XFL. Who cares?
Yeah, that's all right. I won't miss it too much. Yeah. Goes in the pit with every other fucking failed secondary football league. So
there'll be a book on it in a few years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it's somehow in a weird way. I think it had less games than the AAF. Remember, AAF I think ended up getting 30 games or so in. And I think the XFL is only 20 games or whatever, which is just awesome. Because it felt like
got to week 5. I don't remember.
I don't know exactly. I think it was like 22, and I think AAF got to 33 or 35 games overall, which
games,
which is just hilarious because, like, you know, the AAF, they're like, oh well, the AAF. I mean, the XFL's way more set up to not do this, and we even said it too that like, no, they're gonna eat shit for 3 years or whatever, and it ends up that they actually played less than the AAF. So we told you this was gonna be a miserable failure, coronavirus or not, but hey, it is. So.
Listen, a victory lap's a victory lap. I don't care if it was caused by the thing. We win, man.
Well, I don't know why people didn't like. People don't. We know our sports, man. Secondary sports leagues don't work. They never have, and they never will.
No,
like we have established these leagues, and these leagues will be it forever. Another league will never pop up and ever challenge these other leagues.
Not in our lifetimes. Not in our life. Listen, we saw UFC. That's a new league, right?
True.
So what you're saying is it's going to take a new sport.
Right. There's some bozo's not going to decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to get a baseball league and we're going to revive the federal league and we're going to beat MLB. Like, no, it's not going to happen.
I would like to see that with the federal league rules.
Right.
That's what I'd like to see. The pitching mound is 55 feet from the batter and the pitcher must throw underhand,
right.
And the batter can request a high ball or a low ball. That's what I would like to see. And a walk is 8 balls, and all batted balls are in fair territory. Like, I want to see old school baseball.
Catch it on the
rules
bounce.
applied.
We'll catch it on the bounce too.
Catch it on the bounce and you're out. Yeah. You know, well, you got to balance things. If all batted balls are legal, you got to be able to catch it on one bounce, right? You got to balance it somehow. No gloves. You got to work barehanded. There's no night games, and one ball for the entire game. So it doesn't matter if the fucking thing, it's like when you played wiffle ball when you were a kid and it got all cracked.
Yeah, just fucking over. Yeah, you're just done. Everybody goes home.
It's the only ball you had, though, so you had to keep playing until the thing got split completely in half. One ball for the whole game. Because you read those old game stories, and sometimes it would be, the Plymouth Steamrollers defeated the Boston Beaneaters 4-3 when the ball went into the stands and could not be retrieved. You know, and it would end like after 7 innings because they couldn't get the ball back from some kid who caught it in the stands and then ran home with it. That's the kind of shit I want to see.
That's the best. Yeah, like the other famous thing too, the Merkel's boner or whatever, where he threw the ball into the crowd and then they had to kind of try to retrieve the ball or whatever, and like somebody Merkel's found it, and they're like, it's so ridiculous. I love old baseball so much. Yeah, I love. You see the old image too, where like a home run was just it hit into the mass of the crowd, and the mass of the crowd could either like go forward to try to have the ball fall into their mass, and they'd kind of, because there'd be like a rope, kind of like a little bit of a rope there, but the fans could all like decide, hey, if my guy's hitting it towards the outfield, let's all kind of move up a little bit and see if we can get this thing to be a home run. Like, I like that idea. I like the idea of like, the rope's actually out here, the rope's back here. Like,
there were many fields where the fans were in play,
right?
Outfield. Because first of all, the ball hardly ever got hit that far. But then on a rare occasion, you'd hit a gapper.
Oh, when Home Run Baker was hitting his 12 dingers in a year, then yeah, those things started flying out there. So
yeah, you really get into one, and that's what would happen. So yeah, Merkel's boner. I could talk about Merkel's boner all night long. It's a very famous boner.
Yeah, it's a
very famous boner.
Arguably the most famous boner, would you say?
Probably the most famous boner. I mean, who would his competition be? Merkel. I mean, you got John Holmes' boner, maybe. Who else has any famous boners? Different kind of boner, of course, but wasn't that the deal? He was the batter.
Who is this?
Oh, John Holmes, famous porn star.
I don't know anything about John Holmes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll use a more contemporary one. Maybe you're more familiar with a TT Boy or a maybe
actually.
No, not familiar with TT Boy. How about
you used somebody the other day? You used somebody the other day for the Ciampa thing. Who was that guy that you were referencing? Because I looked him up on like. Online, and I was like, oh, all right. Like,
Lance Hart?
Yes, yeah, Lance Hart. I thought it was like some long-lost Hart brother, and then I found out it is not indeed a long-lost Hart brother. It is...
No, Lance Hart does fetish porn, but the most famous fetish porn he does is women kick him in the balls.
Okay.
So this is like that NXT match had a Lance Hart finish because Candace kicked both of them in the balls. See?
I got it. Yeah, okay.
So now you get the reference.
Because I tried to like search through his Instagram to see what the hell you were talking about, and then I decided, you know what, I think I'm good. So
yeah, Lance Hart. Yeah, he does ball kicking fetish porn, among other fetish porn. But he does the ball. Like whenever you see, if you're perusing the porn and you click on a ball kicking video, it's most likely going to be Lance Hart.
Believe it or not, I have not. So that's
yeah. I'm just letting you know. It's not my particular fetish either, but you're perusing, you see these things.
Now, was this John Holmes guy he was a big deal? Because he's like kind of weird looking. I don't know.
John Holmes,
yeah, I don't want to watch this guy fuck anybody.
No, he was like the most famous 70s porn star along with Linda Lovelace. Okay, because he had the giant fucking schlong. The movie Boogie Nights is loosely based.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Loosely based, okay? Then you got, Peter North. Does that one work for you?
I've heard of Peter North. Yeah, I've heard of Peter North.
He's got his special skill, his superpower, is he supposedly has the monster loads, Rich. That's Peter North's
Interesting.
thing.
Okay.
Big load. Then you got...
But anybody, how big? It's just like, I don't know, whatever, it's fine.
You really want to get into this?
No, I'm just saying, like, anybody can have a big, but is his, like, that big? Like, it's not even like...
I'm just saying what he's famous for.
Okay, got it, yeah.
You can pull up his footage, and you can be the judge.
I can be the judge of the big load or not. Yes, I will.
Of the big load. Then there's Ron Jeremy.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so there's one you know.
He's probably the most famous. He might be the most famous boner, actually.
Ron Jeremy might be the most famous boner. Even more famous than
because he passes, like, the mom. Everybody knows Ron Jeremy.
I think he passes the mom test, Ron
for
Jeremy.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if Peter North
does. I'm going to ask my mom right now, Ron Jeremy. Hold on. We did this last week for Gronk. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, let me text my mom.
Let's see if she knows. Yeah, she knows Ron Jeremy for sure.
Oh, she's gonna. 100%.
Like Ron Jeremy and then like Jenna Jameson are probably your more famous like porn stars ever, right?
I would say Ron Jeremy, Jenna Jameson, John Holmes. I'm telling you, you're underselling him.
Okay, maybe I am. Yeah.
I think you got to be of a certain age though, because he kind of he died of AIDS, I think, in like the early 80s.
Okay.
So unless you're like either a porn aficionado or like over or under 40, you might not know who John Holmes is. But yeah, I would leave him out. So it'd be Ron Jeremy, Jenna Jameson. Who else has crossed over into mainstream? You got.
I'm trying to think who else.
Those would be the two. Linda Lovelace, only because the.
I'm thinking of Linda Lovelace.
Throat, Ron Jeremy. Do you know Ron Jeremy? She's definitely going to know Ron Jeremy.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
asking John Holmes too. How about John Holmes?
I would say the days of like a famous porn star might be kind of because now it's like you got everybody. You don't have to get a tape from one person. There's no big draws. There's no huge draws. I think anymore. So. You know what I mean? Like, there might be some. There's your Mia Khalifas and those. I was
just gonna say, and with like James Dean.
The
girls enjoy him. He does the.
I don't know anything about the dudes. Clearly, I'm not too like.
I'm just saying. Listen.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying. Me personally, I don't know if I know the dudes.
James Dean. I can. Let me tell you this, Rhett. I assure you've watched him fuck.
Okay.
That's just because he's all. I'm telling you, you've watched this man fuck. And if you saw a picture of him, you'd be like, "Oh, I know him. I know that guy." I'm telling you. All right. So I sent this off to my mother. So we'll see what she has to say about Ron Jeremy and John Holmes. I mean, she's definitely going to know him. But yeah, they're still famous porn stars. Like,
but on like this level, I don't think anyone's going to cross over too much. Well, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I just meant to proliferate. I mean, it's all available. It's all for you there. So now it's like, might be tougher to be, really emerge as a star in the industry. But, we'll see.
Bailey J. I mean, there's famous ones, I'm just saying, Rich. They're famous.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Their names are popping into my head, I can name some more. I think you're uncomfortable.
Somebody in the chat room is absolutely correct that we have said for years that we were not a horny show, but God, we've been horny the last few weeks, man. Like, although I don't think this is horny. We're having a very intellectual discussion here.
This is not a horny conversation.
We're not saying like, oh yeah, she's hot as hell, or oh yeah. We're just like. The other week we were talking about the stepdaughter stuff. Like we weren't saying, "Oh, I get real off on the stepdaughter stuff." We were just like, "Oh, this is what happens in those." So I would argue that maybe we aren't horny. I'm not horny. I'm not. I'm not having a famous boner right now either. So like,
I don't feel like this is a horny conversation at all. Like I'm not. I don't feel like I'm just naming porn stars. This is more like to me. This is no different than when the end of the third hour we start naming like white NBA centers. Like
right.
It's the same thing to me.
Yeah,
like
we reach the Tom Borwinkle portion of our podcast. No, this is just let's remember some porn stars instead of let's remember some guys.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm naming
dropping Zanzibar here. We're just we're naming Jenna Jameson instead.
I don't think it's any different to say. Like Jenna Jameson was a huge proponent of getting saliva involved in your routine. That's no different than saying Rick Smits was a great shot blocker. Like I'm just naming the porn stars and what they were known for. John Holmes had a giant dick. Peter North, we explained what he was good at. It's just the same thing. It's no different. So I don't feel like there's a horny segment. So I still contend that this is not a horny show.
Good. All right. There we are. I think we're done with whatever we were talking about. You want to get into Japan? Let's do it.
Yeah, we got some Japan topics here. We got to start. This is a big Japan podcast.
Now, I think this is too big to bounce. We can't bounce for an entire hour.
We're not bouncing.
Yeah, bounce is a half hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We have an entire hour of bounce.
I vote no bounce.
Okay, I vote because this is beyond a bounce. This is a not a bounce, a jog. I don't know what it is, but it's a marathon through Japan. We can't be bouncing for this.
No, I completely agree.
Okay,
This is
good.
not a bounce situation. I'm just looking up some of these porn stars now.
Has the mom gotten back to you yet?
No, I'm waiting.
That's fine.
She's going to. She will for sure. What about Alexis Texas? You got to know her. Rich.
I don't know anything about Alexis Texas, but I might. Oh. I know. Well, let me see. Let me see if I know.
She's a blonde with an enormous thumper.
No, maybe then.
Yeah.
Alexis Texas. Let's see.
She's known for the dumper.
Dumper. She doesn't ring a bell, but yeah, probably. I'm sure.
I guarantee you've watched her have sex.
Probably, yeah. That's
Can't avoid her.
That's a nice thumper there, so that's good.
All over the tube sites, Rich. And I know you're not paying for your porn.
God, no. Are you kidding? Who would pay for porn?
Well, I mean, you're problematic if you don't. You know that.
Well, whatever. It's fine.
The second time you've been canceled.
The ad revenue. They make money off the ad revenue. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Listen.
I'm not my dad. I don't have to pay for porn. Come on.
Your dad pays for porn?
No, like did, I think. He had. I remember opening the sock drawer and being like, "Whoa, hold on a minute! Like, what are these?
What is this video cassette?"
Right, I forget what it was. It was
It
was pretty crude because I discovered it pretty late. Like I had already well aware of like internet porn at that time, and I think he just had it in there still and forgot that he had it. Right. I remember looking at it, and I'm like, "This is bad." Like, man, I'm glad we didn't have to live through this. Like, this is just not good, man. It's grainy, it's weird, the tracking's off. I'm like, this is bad, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, some of those. Yeah, but did he throw out the cases to try to throw you off the scent?
No, it was like in the case. It was all there.
Oh, it's in the case. You get the awful photography on the front
it was really bad. It was like a mustachioed man with the curly hair and chest hair everywhere and stuff. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it was probably real vanilla stuff, too.
Oh, right? Yeah, it was just generic as fuck, yeah. It's like, you know what? It's just like literally people having sex. And I'm like, did you really need this? Like, was this really, like, helping in any way? Like, yeah,
People who weren't even very attractive either.
Right. They're just having, like, very generic. They're, like, kissing, and then they're just having sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, get out of here. Where's the story? Where's the,
You're watching average-looking people have coitus,
Right.
And the guy's, like, wearing tube socks. You're like, how do you watch this? Right. I can't fap to this. Who can fap to that? You gotta spice it up a little. I'm not saying you have to go deep fetish, okay? But you don't have to go. Listen, you don't have to do Lance Hart ball kicking, but you gotta spice it up a little, But this is a Big Japan podcast.
Yes,
now.
we are. We're officially a Big Japan podcast.
So we have to talk about, because we've been talking about and following along with the Strong Climb. Rich, Big Japan has finally, mercifully, thrown in the towel on their tour, which they had not given up on. They were still doing regular shows with paying fans, probably longer than anyone at this point, touring Japan. They were up in Hokkaido.
It's not like they were in one. They were not in Sambo Hall like Dragon Gate or whatever. They were running their same building. They were in Osaka. They're in, they're all over the place. They're everywhere, man. It was unbelievable. It's just, that's why I said it was so weird that you could go and like turn on. They're in fucking Korakuen Hall. They're bouncing all over the place. I love it that they were like old reliable. Like everything else going on in the world, you could still just stumble upon Big Japan having a Korakuen Hall show in front of fans. Like.
They were doing the full tour. They were up in Sapporo. They were, so the Strong Climb
Hokkaido. I think they were in Hokkaido a few days ago. It's like,
that's up by Sapporo, right?
I just love them getting in the bus and just going up like, all right, let's do this.
So finally, after the second outbreak in Tokyo, and then, the country got a little stricter, and now what's happening in Japan is the venues are shutting down. So now it's now impossible for these companies to run, even if they want to snub their nose at the thing, because now you don't even have venues to run. So Big Japan and a couple of their shows towards the end of the tour, they weren't even announcing attendance, and they were taking all very close, like tight shots of the ring and whatnot to hide it. But reports were that there were like, in some cases less than 20 fans at some of these shows. So it was getting ugly. They've finally thrown in the towel, but our Strong Climb semifinals are set. For all of the remaining matches that had not taken place, they were all declared draws, with the participants getting 1 point each for the matches that never happened. In the A block, there was only one match that had not taken place, and that was the youngster Hayodo versus Daishi Hashimoto. So that was declared a draw. But the thing about that, Rich, is that with Daishi Hashimoto being credit for that 1 point, he ends up winning the block because 3 other men in the block had 4 points, and he finishes with 5. So Daishi Hashimoto advances out of the A block, which was probably the intended result. He was probably going to win that match.
Right, a little clunky to get there, but he was probably going to win it anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, he was going to win that match against a young wrestler, and he was probably going to finish with 6 points and finish ahead of, I think it was Inamura from Noah, Kawakami, and T-Hawk. Those are the 3 guys that finished with 4. So Daishi Hashimoto comes out of the A block. In the B block, there were a couple of matches that didn't take place, but they ended up, once again, let me see. I don't know if they influenced things because Daisuke Sekimoto won the block with 6 points. No, he would have won the block anyway. So the draws were completely inconsequential in that block. So Daisuke Sekimoto advances with 6, and he edges out Kohei Sato, who came in second place in the block with 5. So Sekimoto wins the B block. The C block was an absolute mess. There were 3 matches that hadn't taken place. There was a 2-way tie at the top with Yuji Hino and Quiet Storm.
Uh-oh.
But Quiet Storm beat Yuji Hino head-to-head.
Uh-oh.
Quiet Storm advances out of the C block.
No shit, really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, there we go. Nice. Good
So
for him.
Quiet Storm wins the block because he won the tiebreaker with Yuji Hino and Okabayashi, who probably would have won the block.
Right.
But he didn't wrestle Hino or Kamatani, so those were draws, and he comes up.
They really should not have had him lose to Hama then. That would have not been that. Maybe they should have adjusted that a little bit.
Who, Okabayashi?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hama beat Okabayashi.
Right. So, because would that have helped? Well, I guess. Yeah, probably.
Hey, he would have won a block. He would have finished with 6.
Jeez, you fuck around, Big Japan.
So Quiet Storm comes out of the C block. And
they should have just done. We had a tour in Rio de Janeiro, and just actually these matches all occurred in Rio de Janeiro, and this is what happened. So, but that's what I would have done. But
yeah,
Big Japan is a respectable company; they're not going to lie about that.
Yeah, my feeling though is probably that. Well, let's talk about the D block first. So the D block, it came down to the match with Lee, All Japan. The tall geek.
Yeah, Jake Lee.
Jake Lee and Nakanoe had a match which Jake Lee needed to win to advance because with the draws factored in, he was 1 point behind Kakuta.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to put Kakuta through. Okay? So Kakuta had 5, Jake Lee had 4, but Jake Lee still had 1 match on the table with Nakanoe. He beats him, that gives him 6, and Jake Lee wins the block. At that point, they waived off the rest of the shows. So I think what happened here, Rich, was they wanted to make sure that they got the 2 finalists through their blocks because it's going to be Jake Lee versus Quiet Storm, and it's going to be Daishi Hashimoto versus Sekimoto. So I don't think they care that Quiet Storm won the block, even if he wasn't supposed to.
Right, it's not like he won their biggest title and he's now their champion or whatever. It's like, you could adjust. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, I think the idea all along was for Jake Lee to go to the final.
Right.
So even though Quiet Storm probably wasn't intended to win the block, it's not that big a deal because he's just going to lose to Jake Lee in the semifinals anyway.
Right.
So, and they have pushed the rest of the tournament to June. So, presumably we'll see a conclusion to this at some point. As far as the other semifinal with Daisuke Sekimoto against Daishi Hashimoto, I think Hashimoto's going to go through because what sense does it make? Jake Lee might end up winning the whole thing because then you set up a Jake Lee title challenge of Hashimoto, right? But you also have to remember this is Big Japan, and it's the worst booked company.
Yeah, they'll find some way to fuck that up.
So maybe Sekimoto wins, and then he beats Jake Lee in the final, and then Sekimoto, after beating Hashimoto and then winning the whole thing, becomes the next champ. I don't know.
It's hard to predict Big Japan. Yeah, they just do stuff sometimes. So
I just feel like Quiet Storm. I feel like they got the 3 key guys they wanted to get through, like, to the next round, and they're just going to live with Quiet Storm, because I feel like no matter what, the C block winner was probably going to lose to Lee anyway in the semifinal. I mean, again, it's Big Japan, and that's hard to predict, but that's kind of the feeling I get off of that. But at any rate, I have seen every Strong Climb match that has hit tape. I don't know if you have. I know there were a couple.
I've seen most. Yeah, I think I've seen most. There may be like 1 or 2 that I haven't seen, but yeah, for the most part, I've just been hitting play on the Big Japan tapes. And if it's a death match, I skip, and if it's not, I'm watching it. So yeah, I've seen most of them. I don't think I've seen 100% all of them yet, though. But most that have made tape, I have seen.
Of the stuff that I've seen and remember, not all of the matches even make tape. I think T-Hawk has been the most impressive guy.
He's been
I've
great.
seen.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
I thought he had a notebook match against Kawakami on I think that was the opening night. And he lost that match. And then I really enjoyed T-Hawk's match against Daishi Hashimoto.
Yeah, 321 is that show, and that one's pretty easy to find if you want to. So that one is that was fantastic. And we're not a pro Daichi Hashimoto site or show at all, but yeah, I thought he was lessened a little bit. Like, there was some bullshit there was still kind of your Daishi Hashimoto stuff that kind of makes your eye roll. But I thought he was pretty good in the match, and T-Hawk was just fucking fantastic in the match too. So it really did help it a lot.
T-Hawk has been so good in this tournament. I mean, with the matches I've seen, that I thought he helped both of the opponents that I saw him wrestle against rise to a different level. So, believe it or not, this is the second Daishi Hashimoto notebook match I have this year. Can I still call him bad?
Yeah, that's what's weird about him, is sometimes it's good, and then sometimes when it's bad, it's really, really, really bad.
It's really bad.
And that makes it tough, yeah. Because sometimes it's like, does this guy know how to wrestle? Has he ever wrestled before? Which is so weird. That's I think what infuriates me more. If he was just like generically whatever, if he was just kind of blah all the time, we wouldn't talk about him. We wouldn't be upset. We wouldn't be frustrated. Just be like, yeah, Daishi Hashimoto, he's blah. The problem is you see him do stuff that's good, and you're like, oh, this guy's good. And then you see him the next time, and you're like, dude, what the fuck? Like, have you forgot how to wrestle? In like a week, how did you forget how to wrestle? And that's what's so frustrating about him. And that's why I think we talk about him and give him so much shit, because it's like, dude, you could be great, and you are sometimes great, but then you're really bad sometimes. Like he fluctuates so heavily, and it's so weird.
The thing is, the 2 matches that have hit my notebook were against Yuji Okabayashi and T-Hawk.
Which that could be another thing, too. We're talking about, 2 tremendous workers there. So maybe he rises to the occasion against those guys and maybe during the other guys.
Or is it really him rising to the occasion?
Right. That's, I guess.
mean, you're talking about 2 guys that are among the best wrestlers in the world. I mean, I'm not afraid to put T-Hawk on that level at this point.
No, he's there for sure.
Just the snap that he works with. And remember that Triple H clip from Tough Enough? Good snap. Good snap.
Yeah.
Not taking their bumps. I like to work in a good snap now and then because of that. That's like a famous clip, But T-Hawk.
Here's how you do it. He slaps the mat on the way down. Boom. This. See how that sounds? I love it.
Let me tell you something, though, in that clip. He took much better bumps than those kids. Like, that was good snap.
No, it was pretty funny when he's like, all right. Because he's listening to them. You can see he's like leaning over. This is like, he's got the long hair still. And he's got the no beard or whatever. And he's listening and he's hearing him. He goes, okay, hold on. Here's how you take a bump.
He's wearing a shirt 9 sizes too small.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. That's a boys. He's wearing a boys mediums. That's
right.
But yeah, I love that clip too, because you're always like, all right, here's this asshole, and then he just attacks the mat, and you're like, oh yeah, all right, right. You just hear it, he's like, bam, 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 and you're like, oh, that is how you bump. Okay,
that is good snap.
Yeah, you're like, all right, wrestling. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, and then like Chris Nowitzki takes a bump, and he's putting him over, saying he has good snap. Was that his season? Might have been. I think it was season 1, right? The good snap season.
Yeah. Season 1, yeah.
Chris Nowitzki, Josh Matthews, Nydia. Who else was on that shit? Maven?
Yeah, Master of the Dropkick. Maven was on that first season.
Man, I just named half the cast.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else was on that cast.
She was like 20 years old, right?
Right, that's pretty good.
You remember Taz on the back of the pickup truck barking at him when they were jogging up the mountain? Yeah.
So who'd you name here? Who'd you name here? You got
Nowitzki.
You got Nowitzki, yep.
Nydia,
yep.
Josh Matthews.
Yep.
Maven.
Yep.
Was that?
There was another guy like Taylor. He was like the runner-up or something like that, but I don't remember.
Like Josh Matthews.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was any discernible difference between Taylor and Josh.
Yeah, one was tall, one was short. Was the difference?
Yeah, right.
They both looked the same. They both had that year 2000 bowl cut.
Yeah, the bowl cut with the frosted tips in there. So
yeah, like the Caesar. Wasn't it called the Caesar?
I think the Caesar's a little different. The Caesar was like the Clooney.
Yes,
cut.
You're right.
I think this one's a little different.
Yeah, and they both had like the necklace with the beads.
the puka shell necklace, yeah.
With the shells, yeah. I like the beads too, like the Hardy Boy thing, you know. Who else was on that? Was Martin Caucus on that season?
Oh, what was that?
Was Martin Caucus or whatever his name is on that season? The guy from Underground.
Think so. I don't think so. Yeah, the rest of these guys I'm looking at it right now. The rest of these guys have like no Wikipedia pages or anything, so I don't think any of these guys ever exist.
Remember one of the Stone Cold seasons? He nicknamed a guy Shit Stain, or was it? That was Skid Mark, right? Skid Mark was the guy's name. He looked like Big Cass, I think, and he nicknamed him Skid Mark. I'm like, geez, that's cold.
I think his name was Ryan was that guy's name. I forget what happened.
Yeah, Ryan Skid Mark. Yeah, what a horrible nickname to have on TV. Imagine being on TV and
you're Skid Mark. Yeah,
is calling you Skid Mark. You can never you cannot get laid now. Like the whole point of being on TV is to get laid. Like now you cannot get laid because your name is Skid Mark. Nobody wants to fuck a guy called Skid Mark, you know, especially when someone like Stone Cold is calling you Skid Mark. But
yeah, the Marty the Moth, he was in one of the Stone Cold seasons. I think he might have been even in the last the revival season. Or the second to last. The second to last.
Little off. I was a little off on that one. Couple of years. Only 20 years off on that one. What's her name on season 1? The one that married Charlie Haas.
Oh, Jackie Gata?
Yeah.
No, I thought she was on
maybe season 2.
I think she was season 2. Yeah, I think. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, so Kenny King, Jackie Gata, Linda Miles, Matt Morgan. That was season 2. So it was good.
Jackie. Okay, season 2. All right. Wait, the first guy was King.
Right.
King. How dare you say it any other way?
That man has been on our TV screen since 2004. What an incredible.
Yeah.
What a run that guy's.
So Daishi Hashimoto, who other people refer to as Skid Mark at times, look, you get him in there with a great wrestler, and he could have a very good match. The problem with him is we've talked about the problems with him. Do we really want to do that again? He's just not very good. But it just goes to show that you don't have to be a great wrestler to have a great match all the time. You know, you can be because I still, he could have these matches with T-Hawk and Okabayashi, but fundamentally I watch him and I still don't think he's a good wrestler. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. He just it seems like he kind of gets into a good match every so often, but doesn't feel like he's a good wrestler. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. It's hard to describe, but
yeah. And there's a lot of wrestlers like that. I mean, but I mean, it's like you watch him wrestle and you're not watching a good wrestler. I mean, he doesn't what does he do particularly well? Can you come up with something that Daishi Hashimoto does particularly?
He's great at screaming, but other than that, you're right. No, I don't. Yeah, he's not a very good kicker. He's not a very good striker. He's not very athletic. He doesn't fly very well. He doesn't look very good. Not quite sure. Yeah, not sure.
He has no presence. He has no charisma. He doesn't have particularly impressive offense. He doesn't sell. You don't look at him and think, he's great at sell. He's not a good bump and sell guy. He has a terrible looking body. He has a terrible look. I mean, you can't point to anything that he does at a level better than his peers. So, he's a guy where if he gets in there with a great wrestler, I always hate using the word carry, but he can be carried to a great match. But at any rate, he's who you have to deal with. The one downside of all this Big Japan stuff hitting tape is that he's the champion right now.
Right, so it's a lot of Daishi Hashimoto. You're watching a lot of him for a long time.
And we're going to be talking Big Japan next week because that show from February just emerged where he takes on Nomura, Takuya Nomura. So I'm going to watch that show. It looks like a very interesting show. There's a Lindemann singles match on that show. I don't have the card in front of me. Actually, let me pull it up now because this is a Big Japan podcast now.
Yeah, we got to know our shit. We got to start knowing our shit, so...
Hold on. I think it's the 224 show, if I'm not mistaken, from Osaka. Let me see if I'm right on that. Yeah, so it's Daishi Hashimoto against Takuya Nomura. Yuya Aoki defending the junior title against Lindemann. That's good-looking shit. There's a 6-man tag, but it's a garbage, it's Abdullah Kobayashi. I'm not sitting through that.
No, yeah.
Barbed wire board death match, no shot. A tag fatigue match with Leatherface. Leatherface? They find Corporal Kirshner? What's going on there? There's a UWA World Trios match. Billy Ken Kid, Masamune, and Tsubasa.
Let's go.
Hey, Billy Ken Kid and Tsubasa. I should put the old picture up.
Yeah, that's us, man. Man, I'd love to do, and I mentioned this like a few years ago. I was going to try to do this, and it's very hard to like kind of track these down and do it. I still might do it, but I'm a sucker for like a weird title in a weird company. Yeah. Like the UWA Trios Championship being defended in Big Japan. I love that shit, man. I love when like a random, Texas territory title is trapped in Japan and will never leave because the Japanese company like uses it and enjoys it and loves it like that. I love that shit, man. It's so great to kind of research and dig into that stuff. So
I'll be all over that match. I mean, Billy Ken Kid and Tsubasa, people remember we used to put that pick up every time we put a podcast. That's us. And they're taking on Akiyori Takazawa, Naoki Tanizaki, and Ryota Nakatsu. So a little Naoki
that sounds like pretty fun. I like that.
Haven't seen him in a while.
Little dolphin man.
Yeah, Naoki Tanizaki Dolphin there. So I will definitely watch that match. And then there's some undercards. Koji Kanemoto's on this show. What? He's in the opening tag.
I guess when you're running out of guys, you might as well get the guy that nobody else wants and bring in Kanemoto. So, hey, that sounds good.
But Kazuki Hashimoto on the opposite side, so that's probably decent. I'll check out Kanemoto. Then there's a 6-man tag, then the trios title match. Tag match with Yuji Okabayashi and Yuki Ishikawa versus Leatherface and Reijin Yaguchi. I got to see what's up with this Leatherface. That can't be Corporal Kirshner, right?
I'm guessing it's not. Yeah, that would be a tough get these days. So
it'd be great if it was, though. Imagine Corporal Kirshner getting that phone call in the middle of the thing and agreeing to fly to Japan. Well, actually, this was February. Japan had the thing in February, right?
Yeah. He would have.
So imagine him getting that call, and they're like, "Listen, Corporal Kirshner, we want you to do the Leatherface thing again, but you got to fly to Japan and sit in quarantine for 14 days." And then we're going to drive you to Osaka, not the big building, Osaka number 2.
Right. Okay.
To wrestle an 8-minute mid-card tag match in front of 500 people, quote unquote, 500 people. That'd be, I got to check that out.
That sounds incredible. Yeah.
Then there's some deathmatch Garbo. And then
was he the one that like the WWE announced was dead and then he had to say, no, I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Did they do they did like a .com thing or whatever? They're like Corporal Kirshner, or like whatever his real name was, who appeared in World Wrestling Federation as Corporal Kirshner has passed on. He had to be like, whoa, no, I'm not dead. Like that's got to be weird to read,
Yeah.
Like imagine Joe Lanza from the Voice of Wrestling Flagship podcast has passed on. Like,
do you know how many people would be like, good?
Right? Yeah. Serves him right for not liking Hideki Suzuki.
Yeah. I think about that.
I'm glad his wife is widowed because he didn't like the wrestling I liked.
Right, exactly. That would definitely happen.
Yeah.
Like I've thought about that. Every time
kids don't have a father, but I'm glad because he doesn't like the Boneyard Match as much as I do. So.
Yeah. Every time I go grocery shopping, I think about that. As I walk past someone and hold my breath in the grocery store.
You gotta get a mask, man. You got a mask yet or what? Don't tell me.
No mask.
The nurse is pissed at you, man. Get a fucking mask, dude.
So I just hold my breath.
Get a bandana. They look cool.
So every time I walk past someone in the grocery store, I think if I get the thing and I die, the worst part about it isn't necessarily being dead. It's that people will be happy I'm dead, And then people who I know who know nothing of this world of me are going to be like, why are people happy Joe's dead?
Right. Daichi's mohawk, with his fucking Japanese lettering, and he's a 16-year-old that lives in, Oklahoma. He's going to fucking love that you died.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Yuji Hino's Grundle is going to be posting that he's glad I'm dead, and people are going to be like, why? Joe's a nice guy. So, so that's, we're going to be doing that Big Japan. We'll do that Big Japan show next week, at least the stuff that we're going to.
We're now at the level where we're previewing
We're previewing.
We're teasing you that we're going to talk about shitty Big Japan shows next week. Come back next week for our Big Japan.
Listen, we're going to do the Big Japan next week. We're going to do the Noah Global Tag League. We put that off, right?
Yeah, so right. 2AW, baby.
And the 2AW show. We're going
FKA Kaientai Dojo here on the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Let's go.
We're going to do those 3 topics for sure next week. Here's the thing, Rich. One of those might be the lead.
I'm ready for a world where we start with 2AW. Where you go, Rich, I've been watching the old Kaientai Dojo, and I'm excited for it. I'm ready for it.
Where else are we going to go with it?
You're right, yeah.
Unless a big story breaks, one of those is going to be the lead next week. That sound you hear are people unsubscribing.
I was going to say that sound was $100 in Patreon money being
taken off the table.
Right.
So All Japan. I guess we finish up today with All Japan, right? So this was I love the title of this show. They did a no fan show in Shinkiba First Ring, that little building that holds like 300 fans. People might know it from the New Japan, not Lions Break. Those are the American ones.
Yeah. Oh my God, why am I blanking on the name of that?
Or was it Lions Break? Or was Lions Break the American?
Lions Break is the American one. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, man. The worst part about this is 27 people are telling us.
Well, that's the advantage of having the chat room now.
Yeah, that we can hopefully. Maybe they were called Lions Break. I don't remember. Whatever.
I think Lions Break are the one in the LA dojo, right?
This is the worst part. Oh my God.
It's the New Japan.
People are screaming.
Or is Lions Break the Japanese ones and the American ones are called something else?
Oh my God. Oh,
and they stopped doing them. The Japanese.
Yeah, and they ruled, and I'm very pissed that they stopped doing them.
They were good shows. They did them in this little building here, the First Ring. New Japan, Lions Gate. We got it. Stop. The Lions Gate, yeah. Anyway, that's the building that they ran this little show in. And we talked about it a little bit at the top, but man, this was right there with some of the Dynamites as the most enjoyable experience for a no-fan show. They darkened the arena, so you couldn't even see the seats. And Rich, this is a 7-match show, and the first 5 matches were done 28 minutes into the show.
I loved it. Oh my God, I love this. Like we were talking about it a little bit at the beginning of the show, where initially I was just like, man, these matches are going quick. And then I was like, these matches are going quick. And I loved it. It was like guys got in the ring. They did their shit. Boom, 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 in, out. I like it. More wrestling like this. More, especially in these empty arenas, more wrestling like this. Go in there, get your shit in, do your stuff, and get out of there. Don't have me waiting around for an hour and a half. Don't have me waiting around. Just get in there and do it. Because it was super enjoyable. You knew at the end of the match, this guy won, that guy lost. And there was not. It wasn't like they weren't wrestling, and it wasn't like they were wrestling like they were on fire. Like they were wrestling like perfectly normal matches. It would just dude would hit a move and he'd pin him and he'd win. And it was like, all right, cool. I was fine with it. I loved it.
Yeah, the first 5 matches, to me, I'm watching them, and not only are they enjoyable short matches, but I'm thinking if you've never seen All Japan before and you're dying for something to watch, these were good introductions.
Absolutely, yeah. You knew who everybody was. You knew what everybody was, their style was, and all that sort of stuff. And then they boom, boom, got in and out. And then the next guy, the next group of guys. So yeah, I love that as like kind of a, because it's been a while since I watched like an entire All Japan show. So it was cool to kind of be like, oh yeah, there's
You're like, Purple Haze or the heels.
Right. You get everything. Yeah, it was masterfully done, man. These were 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes. Fuck yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. And it's not like they were like shit matches. They were good little matches for those lengths too. This wasn't like,
well, except for Kai and Black Menso. That was.
That's the thing. The show didn't get off to a great start.
That was not good.
That was just kind of there. But after that, it really.
I do. Oh my God. I love the dork ass Kai in the fucking opener of an All Japan empty arena match. I love that. Perfect spot for him.
You're still banging on the Kai. I respect.
He blows. He sucks.
I like Black Menso Ray. I like his music.
Cha cha cha
cha cha.
No, it's shots. It's the shot song. Yeah, you don't go to enough terrible bars or clubs.
And I like how, but what I don't like is I always thought he was like replicating like a cobra. Do you know what his gimmick is?
I don't. I actually thought it was like a snake or something.
Like a snake or a cobra. Rich, he's a tea kettle.
Oh God. I love tea, so I'm actually into that. So
he's a tea kettle.
It's not very it's hard to get scared of a tea kettle, but
all this time, even the name Black Menso Ray, I'm like, oh, like that's some kind of snake, right? That's some kind of dangerous fucking animal from the animal kingdom. He's a tea kettle. And then if you look at his little hat on his mask, it's a fucking tea kettle. I never noticed that before. So I don't know if I just ruined him for you. Like
I didn't think he was very good. He kind of stinks anyway. So no, you didn't ruin him for me. The team thing might enhance me. I don't know. I'm not quite there yet.
I think he's a nice little undercard wrestler. I don't have problems with wrestlers like this if they're in the proper place. You know what I mean? That's the thing about No Fun Lanza. Everyone thinks I'm No Fun Lanza. I just don't want it like prominently.
You don't want geeks in your main events, but you're fine with geeks in your openers.
Exactly. And then you had Koji Iwamoto and Tajiri versus Hikaru Sato and Yusuke Okada. How good was Iwamoto here? Especially the finish with the judo throw on Okada.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, I hadn't seen the judo throw in a while, or maybe I don't remember it, but yeah, dude, I was like, fuck, this guy's my favorite wrestler ever now. Because he bounced off the ropes and just fucking drops this dude with a judo throw. And you're like, it will, if you're watching this match, and maybe we spoiled it, we should have just not told anybody. Because, and that's what I said, that's the cool thing about these short matches, is they're just boom, 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 they're doing stuff, and all of a sudden this dude just fucking launches a judo throw, boom, 1, 2, 3, and you're like, hell yeah, that's like the greatest finisher in wrestling right now. I love this dude. This was great. I was all in on this. I want this man to win the, I'm Jake Lee, hit the fucking bricks. Here's my new champion.
Oh, you're bumping him up?
Yeah, he's right up there. He's up there already. Judo throw Swama, win the fucking title. Let's go.
The thing about Iwamoto is sometimes he leans too heavily on the judo throws. Like, he'll have matches where he does like 6 of them.
Right, I do remember seeing those before. Yeah, they kind of lose their importance when he does it 7 times.
Exactly, so. But a situation like this, and he put away Okada clean, right in the middle, you know? And I was like, wow. Then you had Takeo Omori, fiery youngster, versus Chikara. I liked this match.
It was good, yeah.
Chikara ambushes him in the beginning and like crotches him on the middle rope, right? And he's like trying to like steal the win.
Well, Omori's trying to come down. He's trying to come down to the ring, and Chikara's like in his face right away, and like and he's just like, "Come on, dude, let me do my thing. Let me get my fucking wolf's, fur off, and then I'll fight your ass in a minute." But Chikara wants him right away, and then he's like, Omori is just like, "Okay, all right, here we go." So he beats his ass, but then Chikara gets a little bit of an edge, and then Omori just puts him away, and then they just bow together. Chikara's just like, "All right, well, I gave him my shot and I lost, so whatever."
Yeah, I tried to ambush you. It failed.
Right, you're better than me. You are Takao Omori, so that's all right.
I came up short like I always do. And Chikara's a bad pro wrestler. I mean, but the thing about it is, no one pretends he's any good.
Right, it's like a Stalker Ishikawa thing. Like, when you lean into that sort of comedy, it's pretty fun.
I don't even think he thinks he's good. He's just, so this, again, getting the personalities over. Like, you knew everything you need to know about Takeo Omori and Chikara.
Yeah, you had stern veteran that's got no time for this bullshit. You got cheeky young guy that wants to get one over but knows he kind of sucks. And yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah, quote unquote young. How old
he's 38 years old. Yeah, do the Omori joke if people are gonna. That's.
Chikara's got to be like.
He's 40. Yeah, he's like near 40. He's like 38 or 40 or something like that.
Yeah. So then we had Jiro out there with his dopey little suit jacket. And he gets a quick DQ win over Johnny Valletta because, like I said, now they establish Purple Haze, right? They do this attack on Jiro. And what's interesting on this show is then, I don't know if it was at this point or after the next match, but then they did the long promo by Shitoro Oshino. And Oshino and Jiro were going to be in Carnival this year. How disappointing is that?
That sucks. Yeah, those guys would have been awesome in there.
I've kind of cooled off on Jiro over the years. But it still would have been a different change of pace. And Ashino, of course, would have been just a tremendous addition. He came out and did a promo. Not only did he say he would have been in Carnival, but he's All Japan moving forward.
Yeah, which is awesome. I will say one thing I didn't like. I wanted him out in there in that suit. I love Ashino in the fucking suit, man. I know he was wearing his little t-shirt and he was doing that sort of stuff, but I want suit man Ashino. Even if he's not the champion, I want him looking like the champion at all times.
And we get some answers now because he hinted that he's bringing friends along, which means a lot of people think he's bringing his unit along with him. And that'll inject a lot of fresh blood into All Japan in addition to just him. I mean, if he's bringing his whole unit. And it starts to answer some questions of where a lot of the Wrestle 1 guys are going to fall in the landscape. Inaba, got to see where he ends up.
And people think we're crude when we say, like, we want some of these companies to go away because they're just kind of there. And the reason we say that...
want them to fold.
Right. But if they're going to fold, it is beneficial to the entire industry that they go to. Instead of having 15 companies, it's not the worst thing in the world to have 4 or 5 strong companies. And the Wrestle One dying or Wrestle One doing whatever it's going to do is going to help All Japan tremendously, because they just gained a fucking superstar in Ashino, and then some other depth talent as well. It's going to help a lot.
Yeah. We'll see how Ashino assimilates in a new company where he's going to look small. There's a lot of giants in this company.
That's true. Yeah.
You know,
how big is he? He's not.
I don't think he's a big guy, and he's going to get in there now with Suji Ishikawa and Suwama and Zeus and Jake Lee, who's like 6'4", but doesn't have the girth of some of these.
Apparently he's 5'9", 215. Yeah,
he's not a big guy. And in Wrestle One, that was okay because, you're wrestling in Inaba or it's like they're all small. But, like, we'll see how he assimilates. But, yeah, look, I'm not rooting for Wrestle One to fold, but there are upsides to it. We see if a guy like Ashino could hang in a slightly bigger company. We see All Japan desperately needed a new injection of talent, and they're getting it. So there are upsides when this kind of stuff happens. So then we had the good Italian boy, Akira Francesco, with Jiro and Yoshitatsu, then defeating Johnny Valletta, Izanagi, and Shigehiro Irie, Purple Haze. They did a Heyman special. They did the DQ in the singles match with Valletta and Jiro, and it bled into a 6-man tag.
Yeah, which ruled. It's fucking great. I love it. I knew at that point you were going to love this show. When I was watching this, I was like, oh my God, Joe is just standing and clapping at the Heyman special, the DQ into a 6-man. It's perfect.
It's the DQ into the impromptu 6-man, and then the baby faces win in the end. It's a Heyman special. And how often do you see that in a traditional company like All Japan, of all places?
Right. I was very surprised to see that here. So cool stuff.
So they were having some fun with it. And like we said, as these matches were ending, the participants were going into the crowd to add atmosphere to the matches that followed them. First of which was my favorite match on the show, Jun Akiyama, Tashi Sagara, who should remain a team and win every set of tag team titles on the planet.
I love it. Yeah, the grumpy uncles just like on their porch, drinking lemonade, like, all right, put the paper down and say, all right, these young assholes want to fight us. All right.
And Rich, they put the boots.
Oh yeah.
To Dan Tamura and Hokuto Omori, two young boys, or two. I guess they're not young boys. Tamura's been around a while, right? But I mean, they're prelim guys. So they put the boots to these two young boys for 12 minutes and 32 seconds on a show where the other 5 matches combined weren't 12 minutes long. They beat the living shit out of these two guys. And to me, it was too short. I couldn't get enough of this. Did you love this as much as I did?
Oh, I did. Yeah, it was great stuff. And the thing, too, is what was cool about this match in particular is, like, you get the idea that Akiyama and Sagara could put these guys away in a minute if they wanted to. But they're just out there having a wrestle. You know what I mean? They're just like, all right, you got us out of bed. We're not going to just do this in a minute. We're going to really make it, punish you for even thinking that you can get in the ring with us type thing. So it's like they could have pinned him. Akiyama could have fucking dropped him on his head and pinned him 1, 2, 3. Sagara could have take his head off with a lariat and pinned him. But they were like, yeah, you know what? I'll tag. We'll do this. We'll have a little fun. Like then you kind of get the idea that these old guys are. I feel like this is kind of fun. I'm glad we did this. It hurts to get out of bed. It hurts to get. But once you get rolling, it's like might as well keep going. And they just toyed with these kids, just fucked them up for minute after minute. It was great, man. It did not feel like 12 minutes at all. It felt like it just went by in a flash. It was really, really cool.
This was the proverbial cat fucking around with a half-dead mouse.
Yeah. Right.
Just batting them around and then putting them away. God, I love that.
Like, you made us stop reading our paper, so now we're going to just, all right, you wanted to fight? We'll fucking fight then. All right, let's go.
Yeah. This is when you're 12 and you challenge your dad to a wrestling match in the living room, and you realize he has that old man strength that you can't compete with, and he can snap your neck at any time. I would love to see these two guys just do a death march through various companies and just win tag team titles all over the place.
Yeah, it'd be great. They were a good team. I liked it.
I don't know if death march is a good analogy during a global pandemic.
Yeah, maybe not a death march, but a quote unquote run would be, yeah.
So then the main event was the match everybody's talking about. This was a 60-minute time limit draw. Jake Lee, Suji Ishikawa, and Yuma Aoyagi against Kento Miyahara, Suwama, and Zeus. Rich, it's not that the match was bad.
I don't know if it was good or bad. I don't know.
Okay, then we have different takes, because I thought that the match was good and well worked, but there was no connective tissue from beginning to end. It didn't feel like the same match at the end that it was at the beginning, and I know that's not easy for 60 minutes, but I have to judge what I see. And because it was so long and it didn't hold my attention all the way through. And yeah, the last 10 minutes were awesome, right? With Suwama and Ishikawa just beating the living shit out of each other. I can't call it a great match. I also can't call it a complete waste of time. It didn't give me the feeling that Edge versus Orton gave me or Gargano versus Ciampa gave me. But a lot of people are saying that this is a great match of the year caliber match. And I can't go that far with it because there just wasn't enough connective tissue throughout the match. There wasn't a match long story, at least one that connected with me. It felt like 5 different matches, and that's fine. But man, look, they tried it. I understand they have to try different things, just like we talked about earlier with some of these companies, but it was a decent little match, but I can't go crazy for it like some other people are.
Yeah, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. Like I was left just kind of not knowing what I had seen when it was over because it was so long. You know what I mean? Like I had to watch it like 3 different sittings because like I had watched a part of it and then I had to go do something and I came back and I was like 20 minutes in and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, there's still 40 minutes left of this match. Like, because I knew it was a time limit draw. Like maybe if you're watching it not knowing that, you might be, but it was so daunting to hit play and look at the video on All Japan TV and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, this thing's the rest of the video is this match. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to happen. And like there was some stuff that I did enjoy. You know, like you said, the Suwama Ishikawa stuff at the end of the match was really, really good. The rest of it though, I was you know, talking right now and I just finished it this morning. I don't know if I remember much else that happened in it. You know, and that's a problem when you go 60 minutes and you go so long and a lot of it is just plotting and a lot of it's just guys tagging in, tagging out and having a wrestling match or whatever. You know, what was I supposed to feel after this match? I felt Ishikawa and Suwama. I'm looking forward to that match, but otherwise I don't feel anything else.
Bingo.
Like what am I supposed to think? Who am I supposed to cheer for? Who am I supposed to boo? What am I supposed to look forward to? All I have is Ishikawa and Suwama. The other 49 minutes of the match, I don't know. Like,
hey man, they went out there and worked their ass off.
No, it was a good effort match, but it was when it was done, I basically just said, I don't know, was that good? I like in my head, I'm like, I think I liked it. I don't know, I don't remember.
I'll give you another takeaway I had. Miyahara looks naked without that title. And
real quickly, did it annoy you that he came out and he was so happy, go lucky?
Oh, I know where you're going with this. It didn't, but
okay.
Tell me why it bothered you.
Well, because I mean, like this dude just ended like a historic reign. He's one reign away from tying an all-time mark, tying the biggest mark, one of the prestige, you know, most title reigns and all, or the most defenses, all sorts. He had all this, like he could have been right there on the cusp of doing it. Loses the title, he comes out and he's kind of doing his fake, like, let's all have fun. Yeah, you know, I'm doing my old Kenta Miyahara thing. Like, I don't know what I wanted. I kind of wanted Kenta Miyahara to be like, no, I'm fucking pissed, man. I'm getting that title back.
I hear you.
I'm not going to team with Suwama, and he's teaming with the guy.
Teaming with the guy who beat him, too.
That's right. Like, isn't that weird? It bothered me. I don't know why it bothered me, but it just did. I want sulking, give me my fucking title back. No, I'm not tagging with you, you asshole. Come on, let's go.
Listen, I got to be honest. It didn't occur to me in the moment, but it's not a bad point. But I can't sit here and lie and say that I felt the same way. But not a bad point. All I could think about is he's doing his Kento Miyahara entrance and being goofy and, you know, doing his – he looks naked without the title. And, man, I already miss him as champion. I just feel like he should be the champion in this company. You know, to me, he is modern All Japan. He's what I think of, you know, and it just felt weird that he wasn't champion. I think I saw either a tweet or someone in the Discord, and they were when Miyahara, they were watching live, and when Miyahara came out, they were like, he didn't even bother bringing the title to this show because they forgot he wasn't champion. That's how used
it's all we've known. Yeah, it's all we've known for so long.
You know, and then the person was like, oh shit, wait a minute. No, he fucking lost it. What am I talking about? But yeah, I mean, I can't call the match a waste of time, but at the same time, I cannot recommend it. I cannot tell you, listener of the Flagship, hey, you're bored, you want some wrestling to watch, go watch this 60-minute match. I can't do that. Right. But I can tell you, go watch this show. I think this is a very useful show if you're not super familiar with the roster. It's almost like an introductory show. Yeah,
in a half an hour, you know all the major players. You know that Ashino is coming in. You know the heels. You know the baby faces. You know the veterans. Yeah, it's a nice tight introduction to All Japan and All Japan.
You know the cast tears sounds on.
Right. You got all that. And All Japan TV is a great service too. They do a great job. Very clear, very obvious what's going on. So yeah, if you're looking for more wrestling, and All Japan could be pretty fun moving forward. Obviously, pending whatever the hell happens next with coronavirus or whatever. But yeah, alljapan.tv is where all that stuff's on there. It's good stuff.
So next week, Big Japan, Noah Tag League, 2 AW. And maybe if some news breaks, are we finally running out of footage to talk about?
So far, no, but we'll see. I do feel like it's
next week. Be it. I mean,
next week might be it. I mean, Japan is starting to say, "All right, let's get a little serious about this. What we're doing here." So,
are we good now? Now, look, there'll always be. There's going to be Dynamite through May 23rd. There's going to be WWE through Money in the Bank. I think MLW has another month left. I mean, if we need to find something, we could find it. But I think the well is finally starting to run a little dry. We thought it was going to happen a month ago, but it didn't. But we're starting to run out of shit. We need news to break. That's what we need to carry these shows. Can we really come on here and open with 2AW? Is that really going to be the lead
Joe,
topic?
you might know it as K Dojo, but today it's called 2AW.
Do I have to sit here and do Dinosaur Takuma for 20 minutes? Do I have to do that? I mean, because we could do it.
These are weird times, Joe. These are weird times.
It's kind of cool though that it kind of cleared a path for some Big Japan talk.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like this. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to have to just be like, all right, Joe, on Dynamite, Lance Archer came out and did this. Like, it's cool. Like, you do the TV reviews obviously on Patreon. I watch them all, but I love the idea of us just watching shit that we're not used to, and we don't usually cover. This has been fun, but
yeah.
I do worry that we're getting pretty close to it. So, Dragon Gate had a Sambo Hall show on 4/4. You can watch that.
Oh, we could do that next week, too.
Boom. There it is. I was about to start it before we recorded. So
Can we play the bouncing music for 3 hours?
It just starts and bounces.
Play it for 3 hours.
I mean, we could.
Just 3 hours of it. The Orient
And you said we can't do it live. There's a way I could do it live. To set it up is a little weird, but I could do it live if we needed to.
Oh, wow.
It'd be ridiculous because we would hear it in our... Like, I don't know if my brain... Like, I know people think it's fun and whatnot, but I'm thinking in my own head. I'd get distracted listening to it and trying to talk at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you would not hear it, but I would hear it the entire time. It would show up in the recording, and the people listening on Patreon, the super fans, they would hear it as well. But I don't know that I could hear it for 3 hours straight. That might be a little much. So
yeah.
All right, 2AW next week.
We're gonna have to get creative. Who knows?
Oh God! All right, so this is pretty good. I thought this was fine. There was one point where I muted myself and I talked, and you responded to me, so people thought it was kind of weird. And you don't even remember when that happened, Joe, because you hear everything. But I muted myself on my end, so the streamers didn't hear it. But that was only one sentence, and you burped twice. I took a leak, and I don't think anybody even knew, unless you said.
I could. You didn't tell me, but
I did. If you'd have checked your goddamn phone, you would have known. But that's all right.
I gotta check my. Oh wait, did my mother text me back real quick?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, we got. Let's do that.
Oh, come on. Porn long dong.
Look at that. Even knew his specialty. All right. Yeah. Oh, okay. You got her going. You got her fired up.
Why do you always ask me this stuff about knowing people? LOL.
She's on to you.
There's more. Yes, I've seen both in action.
Whoa. All right.
There's more.
Oh.
Ron was ugly and hairy.
Yes.
Okay, stop. That's it now.
Oh, that's it. Oh, I was wondering what her take on Jenna was.
There's no take on John Holmes. Just the Ron.
Oh, on John Holmes. Oh, right. Oh, I forget. You asked about Holmes and Ron.
I asked Ron Jeremy and John Holmes. So
we could assume that she knows Jenna Jameson. Like that's no question. She knows
Jenna Jameson. Yeah, I mean,
she's watched Private Parts. She's watched Private Parts. She knows.
I would ask her, but she might not answer, and we're running out of time. But I'm sure she knows Jenna Jameson. But I like this new bit. Joe texts his mother during the show.
Right. She's gonna get onto you though. She's gonna start demanding some of this money too.
She called them dongs.
I do like that. I don't know if my mother would call anything dongs, but
yeah,
big dong.
Yeah, long dongs.
Oh, long dong. That's what it was. Long dongs. Okay.
Maybe she doesn't respect the girth of Jeremy. I'm not asking her that.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah,
I'll ask my mother if she respects the girth of Jeremy. Well,
report. That's our hook for next week. That's our hook for next week. Joe's mom responds to Joe's text about girth. That's what you got there. Anyway, all right, that is it for us on our maiden voyage here, the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Live. If you are listening on demand or you're listening on your podcast app, we still appreciate you, still thank you. But if you want to listen live like our folks did, voiceofwrestling.com/Patreon, patreon.com/voiceofwrestling, the $10 tier. We have a WrestleMania instant reactions that we mentioned are on the $10 tier as well. $5 tier is still getting stuff. I got the Lavelle look back, looking at the 2000 WCW Spring Break. That is up this week. Joe's tier reviews are still up there. News updates are still up there. All that other stuff's going on. We we're going to see. I might do a trial run of the Q&As this weekend and try to kind of work that out before we launch it into the actual flagship. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be a $10 tier. We'll get that information as well. But I thought this was pretty good, Joe. We went live and it was fine.
I told you it'd be fine.
Yeah,
Same shit we always do.
Business as usual. And these people waiting and chomping at the bit for you to say something bad. It was me that I got canceled. What did I? Oh, because I called Tegan Knox. I said Tegan Knox was good at crying. So.
You got canceled twice.
Which is a shame because I like Tegan Knox. I like her a lot.
I could do a joke. So a Jew, a black guy, and an Italian walking
there
into a
we
bar.
go. All right, we gotta go. We got so close. We're only 2 minutes off. Anyway, for Joe Lanza, I'm Rich Grach. We'll see you guys next time on the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Take care.